Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 210. I'm Steve Crane. Got Nate Hale here. We are joined by Josh Bentley once again in the race for the most frequent flyer on the show, I believe.
Hey, all right.
Probably you and Spencer, I'd say, right? Is that right?
It is. It's the two of them are the tops.
That's it.
Get out, Spence. Get out.
But Josh, thank you for joining us. Glad to have you. You brought a new cigar.
Yep.
Which we're looking forward to having. Before we get into that a little bit here, I do want to thank you guys. We also have a special guest that's waiting in the back, the green room, if you will. But I do want to thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. A big Smoking 10 event coming up in just over 2 weeks. And we're looking forward to seeing what's going on there. Josh will be there, right?
I'll be there.
We've got those 3 letter openers from a couple weeks ago
That's
that you
right.
conveniently left here.
I conveniently forgot them.
Oh.
I wondered what happened to those.
No, you didn't.
Come and see me.
Come and see you. But so come and see it. First 3 people in the tent, probably the VIP members. If you listen to the podcast and ask where my letter opener is, he will give you a letter opener. So come and see him at the 10 event. Tickets are still available. I think there's about 5 to 10 VIPs available out of the 150 that were originally available. And there's also general admission that are for sale as well. So if you have any questions, call or contact Tinder Box at Easton, and they'll get you squared away. That's Saturday, March 19th in Columbus, Ohio. Multi-vendor, over 10 companies. The VIPs are getting 15 to 20 cigars. The general admission are getting 10 to 15 cigars. Lunch, brunch, all the fun stuff.
Cool.
So Altadis USA, thank you guys, Josh, for all the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Getting us sponsored by Altadis. You guys have been a great support to us. We get some of the great new cigars as well when Josh comes on, which is a great support to the podcast and to you guys to hear it about those cigars when we get them. BS Cigar Company Gold and Silver are available. The gold's made at Placencia. The silver is made by Espinosa. Fantastic cigars. Contact them at bscigarcompany@gmail.com or on social media. Also carried at the Tinder Box at Easton. The last couple things here, you guys out there, patreon.com/bourbonandbs podcast. Thank you to the monthly supporters out there for the show. If you guys want to contribute to the show on a monthly basis, $5, $10, $25, whatever tier you want. And then you get access to discounted swag like the blue sweatshirt I got on. Nate's got the new camo with the Barrelhead logo and also the new 3/4 sleeves. Nice. Josh also, I know, supported it by getting the charity shirt right now through basically right after St. Patrick's Day and the Smoking 10 event. There is a t-shirt on there as well at, again, buyjack.com/bourbonandbs. That is a way you guys can get these new things. And if you're a Patreon member, you get a discounted code to that. So that charity shirt is $30. $10 goes to St. Baldrick's Foundation, which we're happy to donate to that. So rock the podcast shirt and then also support a good cause. Last but not least, Venmo at Bourbon and BS. If you guys want to shoot us some money to buy a bottle or just send money, that's cool too. Tonight we got the H. Upmann Nicaragua. I'm sorry. I see. I've been saying that so much. H. Upmann Heritage.
There you go.
Well, it does say Nicaragua on the back.
I know, but I mean, I come out of the gate and I say that, and I do want to. Who do we have joining us tonight, Josh? You invited a special guest.
Yeah.
And while you do that and introduce him, I'll get him on the screen here and light up my cigar.
That sounds good. So looking forward. The cigar that we're smoking tonight, we'll talk about in a second. But I wanted him to come on. He's going to be present with me at the Smoking Tent event. He is our national education manager, Travis Papperheim. Travis, are you with us?
I am. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Thanks for having me on. Excited.
Yeah.
Travis, good having you on. You are joining us from down south in Florida, you said, right?
Affirmative. I am down here in South Florida today. Tomorrow I'm in Kansas, and last week I was in the Dominican, and so I bounce around the country.
So what's your role exactly? I know Josh introduced you, but what is your role exactly with Altadis USA?
You know, that title kind of confuses people. I just like to say I'm the biggest cigar nerd in our company, and they pay me to talk to people.
Nice.
Really what it comes down to. I have
nice gig.
Yeah. I've been trained by our group of maestros, by our master blenders, people in the influence of industry, the influencers within our industry, the guys who know what they're doing. They spent the time to train me, from seed to finished product. So there's a lot of stuff up here, and I find people really want to know this information. So my job just really goes around and tells stories about what we know in ways that people can absorb the appetite, absorb the information. So.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So I wanted to have you on because I thought you would be able to shed some light when we get into talking about the cigar. Usually, Travis, how we do is we just kind of talk up front. We talk cigars, we talk bourbon, we talk about the blend, and then we do at the end of the first segment, we do a little bit of a rating that we go through and rate the bourbon, rate the cigar separately, and then rate the pairing together. And then we'll get into the real world subjects, right?
That's right, Josh.
That's right.
Look at you. You're a pro on there.
Yeah.
I like that. So tonight, while we talk about the cigar, we are sipping on something that Josh brought to us as well from Nashville Barrel Company. And then Nate will go into, we're going to start with the cigar tonight, and then we'll get into the whiskey a little bit about it. It is a straight rye whiskey. And this is a barrel pick, correct, from a group that you're involved in?
Yeah. Yep. That's correct.
What's the group? Can you say?
I don't know. We'll leave it. We'll leave it be anonymous.
It's literally on the bottle that we've posted all
It's
over
all right.
social
Figure it
media.
out. Figure it out. All right. So but it is from Nashville Barrel Company, and it is a straight rye. We'll get into that as well. But let's get started with this. This is and I'm going to probably mess this up too, the fourth edition or fourth part of the H. Upmann series with the Nicaragua, the Hispaniola, what's the yellow one?
You would mean the collaboration, the H. Upmann collaboration.
Okay, what's the yellow one?
You said the Connecticut, the group of the.
It's just Connecticut. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
And now this is the H. Upmann, says Nicaragua, AJ Fernandez Heritage. So, gentlemen, what are we smoking tonight? And this has launched, right? This is just now landing across the country in brick and mortars, correct?
Correct. Absolutely correct. Yep. And for me, this is a cigar that was built based off of the H. Upmann by AJ. The first launch we did with AJ under the H. Upmann label, and it was very, very successful launch for us. People really grasped that style that AJ wanted to tell. And when I mean telling that story, most people don't realize that AJ actually grew up in Cuba. His parents were, because of the embargo, they basically fled Cuba. They went to Nicaragua. He stayed with his grandmother. His grandmother's name is Lily. When he was actually old enough, got the means, he moved to Esteli, where his parents lived, and bought a farm. His first farm is named Finca Lilla, or Farm of Lily. So the farm that he bought, some of this tobacco goes into, but the heritage part of it is he's telling that story of his love for H. Upmann, because it is a Cuban tied name, right? It has Cuban heritage to it, but it tells that Cuban story, and him in Nicaragua all using this tobacco that they used in this.
Now, this is quite a different iteration as far as what we were dealing with the Nicaragua, right? You said the AJ Nicaragua, which was before the collaboration series. Is that correct? There was a Upmann AJ?
Correct. It's got the teal color to it. It's still in a wooden type box, but it's got more of a teal in the band and the box, and when you open the lid and the inner lid line.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's what he's talking about. The Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper on that first H. Upmann by AJ.
Yeah, like Eric's got in the garage here. We do have a live studio audience as well, but we've got no, it's fine. That was obviously a hit all over the board for you guys. Price point, quality of cigar. I mean, just the whole thing was just a fantastic one. So what is this?
Great way to really launch and highlight the wonder that is Sumatran, because there's not a ton of manufacturers that use a large plethora of Sumatran leaf. And that leaf, for me, it's one of my favorites. It's personally my favorite to play with when we're creating blends, because it is so diverse and very deep. You can go very complex, you can go light complex. It's able to do everything. So that's why that was such a success, is that he really told a great story with that.
You did. You mentioned the also what was it? The Finca La Lilla.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to be on one of those. You did one of the H. Upmann Nicaragua in a Magnum size, or a 6x60, correct? That was a more limited run with the tobacco that was highlighted in that. Is that correct?
Yep. That same series we had a special release called Finca Lilla, which was tobacco from that farm that they used in that blend.
That was correct me if I'm wrong, Travis. That was the first harvest in 2009 from that farm that they used to make that wrapper, and it does change the profile of that cigar.
It did also in that Magnum size.
Yeah.
As you guys call it, like a Magnum in that series there.
Yeah. The 6x60. It's a little bit darker leaf and gives it more of a full-bodied experience.
I remember when AJ is allowing us to use some tobacco that he had from that very first harvest, he was involved in every bit of that.
Oh, absolutely.
When it comes to pulling it from the aging, watching it as it went through and it went through the grading process, helping to hand select the leaves that we used, and then watching the fermentation, which that's where you get some of that dark coloring out of it, because he was watching the sugar content, watching what was going on with it, and he says, I don't know if it was it needs more, and I don't know what his verbiage was or what he used, but I know he came out with perfection. I thought that was a really good stick.
That was very good. So what is this one we have in the Heritage? I mean, this is I'd say bolder, a little hardier than the blue one, the Nicaragua, the original one. But what is the makeup? What are we smoking? What are we dealing with here?
Josh, why don't you go for it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Brazilian Matafina as the wrapper, a Nicaraguan binder and Nicaraguan fillers. It makes for an absolutely gorgeous smoke, but it is rich. It is really, really rich. The profile on it, it has a lot of, to me, earthiness to it, a lot of dark fruit that I'm getting from it. I'm trying to decipher whether that little bit of sweetness on the side of my tongue is coming from the cigar, because I definitely don't think it's coming from the rye. But
you might be surprised there.
A little bit. Might be getting a little bit.
Maybe take a few more minutes off of the rye and just continue smoking the cigar and see if it stays there.
Yeah. What do you think, Nate?
I get this like this rich coffee bean, not like you just brewed coffee, but like you were chewing on coffee beans. That's the kind of like
you do that often.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I get my monthly coffee and it's whole bean, I'll take a couple beans and just chew on them before I brew them.
Yeah. I like that.
But no, it just has that really dark, heavy richness to it.
Yeah.
But and this isn't a negative, but like this slight bitterness because of that coffee.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what I get off of this.
I think you're going to get that with a lot of black coffee like that, some of the richer coffee like that. You're going to get that bitterness. And you're right. I mean, bitterness comes across.
Like a dark roast coffee, not bright and acidic like a light roast.
Yeah.
It's not like a dry bitterness like I've had some cigars. I think that happens a lot when some of them with like San Andreas wrapper leaf sometimes will do that. I feel like with the blends that you get like a dry bitterness at the end, the finish. This doesn't have that. It does have a little bit. You just had, and again, I'm not like you, Nate, little disclaimer. It's not like a bad thing, but it is kind of like a just slightly overburnt coffee.
Yeah.
That bitterness finish where it's really good up front. And as it sits on the back of your palate, it's not a bad bitterness, but it just stays with you a bit.
It's a flavor note.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a negative towards the cigar. It's just a note from the flavor. And I mean, Josh could probably tell us, where that might be coming from is, from the Matafina wrapper, the Nicaraguan tobacco that's in the rest of the cigar.
Well, so another characteristic real quick that I'm not picking up very much, and I remember this from a previous conversation that we had, but almost no spice.
No,
I even tried to retrohale
not on the palate.
and right, yeah.
Did you try when you first fired it up? Did you notice any zest at all? Maybe not a spice, but more of almost like a cayenne.
There's a little bit of a spice in that way. Yeah, it's not spicy like a pepper, I don't think.
If you haven't taken a drink and you smoked a little bit, go in your upper gum line. You might pick a little bit of that up in there.
Maybe just a hint. And again, remind you that we are drinking a a rye whiskey too, which may be taken away from that. I do get a little sensation, if that's what you're talking about, in that upper gum.
Yeah. A lot of people forget that upper gum line does trap a lot of the oils that are in the wrapper leaf itself. And wrappers, I've heard anywhere between 50 and 80% of the flavor profile, depending on the blend that you're putting together. But for me, I just find that there's a lot of flavor that gets trapped up there. And every once in a while, I'll just go up there and go, is my palate telling me the truth?
Yeah.
So
I get a little bit of a black pepper in the retrohale. It's not a spice in the retro, but I get a little bit of black pepper sensation, especially at the end of it.
It's very fleeting, I think.
Yeah.
Like it's not lingering like some of the cigars that we've had, like the BS Silver, the spice on the retrohale for that one just lingers for a while. This one, it's there and then it's gone. It doesn't stay there for a while.
It's lighter.
Are you guys letting it cool, like blowing 50%, 60% of that smoke out of your mouth and then doing the retro, or are you doing retro first?
I usually let some of the smoke out through my palate and then retrohale the rest of it.
One of the things, Trav. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I try to do both. My natural smoking habit now at this point is I retro first a little bit. If not, it's almost, I don't say 50%, but I'll definitely go out the nose. It's hard not to do that for me at this point when I do a retrohale. I don't know. I actually just enjoy the flavor that way. I know I've read and people have taught me differently to blow through the mouth first and then finish through the retrohale. But
I told him, Travis, what Elmer and Joel told us in Honduras. I've talked about that on the podcast before. How it might have been one of our peers asked them about retrohaling when we were sitting with a group of the maestros and going through a tasting. And, they said that they very rarely, maybe once, when they're going through their tasting process, they retrohale maybe one time. But other than that, the whole process of bringing it in your cheeks, pursing your lips and expunging all of that smoke, bringing in a little bit of oxygen and chewing that.
Why do you think that is that they don't like to retrohale, or they don't prefer to?
Because it messes with the sensory, in your taste. Is that right, Travis?
Yeah. I mean, you got to think about the body. The body's going to naturally react to a foreign substance of any kind. So you're bringing that smoke up. And the reason I asked about the hot versus cool on you guys was you'd mentioned you do let most of it out. You had time to let that smoke cool down. You probably didn't get as much of that black pepper. Where you got it, you force it out right away. You'll get that black pepper that's going to be more pronounced, but your body's going to react in the hairs, basically the fine hairs that help bring in those flavor notes. They have the sensors that help bring in the flavor notes. They're going to recede. You're almost drying that mucus out of your nose. So if you do it a lot, you've almost got to do it more and more just to get back to where you were if you only did it once.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way people are like that. Smoke or do that type of stuff. They like spicier foods a lot of times too because of the sensation that you get from that. Otherwise, it gets a little bit bland over the years.
Now, do you guys ever really realize that the aromatics of a cigar are playing just as much of an effect as the actual palate itself?
Is that why? Are you referring to retrohaling or just the overall like essence with the smoke burning and everything else? Just
the smoke burning and the aromatics around it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize just how important that is. So if you're in a real windy situation, these cigars are going to taste different than if you were in a garage like us four and maybe a lot of your viewers. But it's sitting in a garage. We have time for that smoke and that aromatics to really help play an effect on what we're tasting. And the best example I can give you that is, if anyone has ever driven by a Burger King and not been hungry by the time you passed it, put a comment in the comment section and let us know. Because I guarantee everyone's gone,
it's been a long time since I felt hungry for Burger King.
That rodeo cheeseburger, man. Come on.
But aromatics are huge.
So I've heard that too. And in fact, was lucky enough to kind of get through like a blending process for that BS Cigar Company. And one of the things that when we were down in Miami working on those, we were advised to make sure we take back some of the prototype blends that we really liked and go back to Ohio and smoke them again there. Not only because it's a different day, different scenario, but the different climate. Would that play influence to that since you travel so much? Do you see that being a factor in that, where you smoke something down in perhaps in Nicaragua, Florida, where you're at, and then you travel all over the country, you have different, just the atmosphere around you, the climate's different. Would that affect that on that same note?
Huge. I used to live in Colorado.
Okay.
My house was around 53 or 6,300 feet in elevation. I had a cabin at 10,900. When I came to Florida, it was tasted one way: more oxygen in the air, more moisture in that air. Go to Colorado, where it's 20% moisture content, and your oxygen has been reduced down by 25%.
Yeah.
So you only get 75% of the oxygen in the air to help transfer those flavors onto your palate and into your body. So it can play a big difference when you're tasting cigars and what they're going to do. But the basis should always be the same. The oils that are in there, if you let that first 1/8 of an inch burn off, let those oils in the filler warm up, your wrapper is kind of like your steak. The filler is there to add the strength to the cigar, but also add those accentuating flavors, that gravy or the butterduck salt or the 17 spice blend that somebody decides to put on there, and just add to that beautiful steak. So you got to let everything warm up to let the concert play, and not just hear the baritone sax or just hear the guitar. You got to hear the whole band.
Like an overall recipe is that we refer to it a lot of times. You take out one leaf, whether it be the filler, you change the binder. Obviously, the wrapper is a huge part of it, but you change the one leaf. Not only is it necessarily, I mean, you go from Ligero to say, Seco or whatever, it'll change the strength a bit, but it also will affect that flavor. Or you come from a different region or a different part of the plant. Did have a question here from a listener while we have you and Josh on here, because I think it's kind of, you guys are in different positions with the company, not necessarily like part of the Grupo de Maestros or anything like that. But the question is, we often hear guests on the show talk about their involvement in the blending process when it comes to the development of cigars. Just how open is that process to associates in your company?
Very minimal.
Okay. Yeah. Granted, everyone that you're not as familiar with Altadis. We've had different size companies on the show. We've had reps on, we have had master blenders on, we've had cigar company owners on the show as well. But with Altadis, it is it's the biggest in the U.S. You in general,
Travis, what do you say?
I mean,
yep.
Yeah.
By volume of numbers, yes.
Okay. So yeah, the largest, one of the largest, whatever. I mean, you guys, it's a very large company. A lot of employees from top to bottom, but you guys have very little in the blending process. How does that work for Altadis typically?
We have a hand select crew that actually gets involved in the blending process. We don't want too many chefs helping to create a dish. Sometimes simplistic is the best process with the right amount of knowledge. Now, bringing on somebody like AJ Fernandez, as we all know, is a monster. Utilizing his neighbor and cousin, Nestor Plasencia, in the blend. We've got our guys down in Honduras that will be involved in parts of it. Rafael Nodal. And then our master blenders in the Dominican Republic. In addition to people like myself, Danilo in the office, there's a couple of us in the office that we can give suggestions off of what we're hearing in the industry from consumers, from retailers, in addition to what we taste and what we think they might try as a suggestion, but not necessarily as a blend choice. Those guys are very specialized, very, very detail oriented. If I'm building a car and I'm great at building engines, I'm not going to tell a suspension guy how to do his job and do it better than he knows it. And vice versa. So I let those guys do what they know how to do. We just give suggestions, and they're very open to listen, because you've seen, I'm sure, over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that we've watched our blends get better and better when it comes to what the consumers are looking for, which I'm very excited to do. And I'm very excited to be part of it.
Well, I like the direction you guys have gone. Sorry if you want to. I didn't know two parts of that. One would be, is there feedback when you're talking about, obviously you have the people at the top as far as the blending process, obviously it also has to go with what tobaccos are available to make a major launch, a limited edition, release, those types of things. Are there focus groups within the company? I mean, is that ever part of it, or is it just they do what they do and then it's released and then you guys get to enjoy it just like we do?
they've got an internal group that'll kind of get the vision from marketing, saying, marketing, this is what we'd like to come up with that fit this part of the story, whether it be price point, strength, flavor styles, texture in the mouth. They'll design what they want. The grupos or the blenders will then start to put some composites together. Can be anywhere between 15, 18, 20 different blends together. That could be a proposal. Then we'll narrow that down. Then we'll narrow it down further. They'll narrow it down further. Then somebody like Danilo or myself will help get involved with, here's 2 or 3 that we like. What do you think? And we'll smoke them and go, here's our opinions. Okay. Then they'll make tweaks, and then we'll try it again until we get to that final. That's just like, okay, that's the one.
Yeah, one of the things I like the most, and we've talked about it with Josh on the podcast, where you have these iconic brands, right? And you see over the last 5 maybe to 10 years, but mostly the last 5 to 8 maybe, where you started seeing, some of your, like Monte Cristo, H. Upmann, you have some of these classic names, and then you also have some of the classic blends that you guys have been working on for a long time. It's been part of the portfolio. Then all of a sudden you have that kind of ride between some of the boutique cigar companies that were just all the rage. And then that's a huge part of your competition when the overall variety of tobaccos, countries, factories, Esteli blew up like crazy. How many factories are in Esteli now? But all of a sudden you see some of these iconic brands from you guys showing up with AJ Fernandez on the name, Plasencia on the name. And you have these things where you are going outside of your factories that you guys have been using for a long time and farms that you've been using for a long time, and kind of took, I would say, not saying AJ's boutique, but AJ started blowing up through the online presence. Then his brick and mortar series started going crazy with it. Now you see AJ on your guys' stuff. You see it on other brand stuff. You see Plasencia, they launched their own cigar line as well with their name on it. And then you see it on the Espada series with you guys. And we featured some of the Espada stuff. There's been a running joke recently on the show that over the last several weeks, we've had a ton of Plasencia products under different things. Like, again, even like, with us, the BS Gold, we were able to utilize Plasencia. I know like Alec Bradley utilizes a lot of Plasencia tobacco, and they don't even mention Plasencia in any of their marketing. I love what you guys have done with utilizing and using the names like AJ and Plasencia to really push the new growth and direction of some of the iconic brands. Yeah. Is that the continued direction, or are you going to kind of do both arms of it where you're utilizing your factories and farms and then also continue to expand your growth with AJ and Plasencia and possibly other farms? At the current rate, things are going with the popularity of Nicaraguan tobaccos and cigars. I mean, the last 3 or 4 years, Nicaragua's overtaken Dominican Republic when it comes to the popularity of cigars that are being purchased. So instead of us going and buying a factory and building it up and doing all that let's go to the pros that know that region, that tobacco, and are the best at what they do. Yeah. So we first went out to Nestor Plasencia, and he was, open arms, Cuban heritage, being a Cuban himself. We want you to come and work with us because you have the brands that remind us of home. So we worked with them, and then we got to work with AJ, and he had the same philosophy. So we went to the professionals. And if you think of Plasencia, if you walked into your humidor, looked on all your shelves, I don't know how many SKUs you have, but I know it's a lot. Yeah. 80% of those cigars you have in there have some of Nestor Plasencia's tobaccos in it. Right. Yeah. So if you think about just that number alone, you go to those guys. Yeah. So that's who we went with, and it's been a very, very great partnership for all of us. Yeah. You get your hands on not only the knowledge, but obviously, like you said, that you have the tobacco that has been, basically cultivated in Nicaragua for a long time, and seeing that with that boom. And if you guys ever follow some of the online sites, Half Wheel's a big one. I know that has a lot of the news and stuff like that. But this last year, I've seen more articles with the data as far as like the first 6 months and the percentage growths. They have great articles on that data, and they're showing what growth is happening overall with the imports into the United States with, companies like yourself. But Nicaragua is just, you're right. It's that percentage is higher than the DR and Honduras. And it's almost staggering to see all of that. Yeah. If you looked at the numbers over the last 6 years, you'll see Dominican was here, Nicaragua just kept creeping up.
until it's now this is guess. Don't factually prove this to me, but I want to say it's like an 8 or 10% difference between Dominican and Nicaragua now. So it's amazing, but that just says a lot about what the spirit in the wines and what we like to do. We're a little more vibrant now. We like that little bit of Esteli style of tobacco with that peppery notes. We like that little bit of leathery notes out of Condega, or that nuttiness out of Jalapa. Or maybe, the combination of all of them, or using tobaccos from Colombia in the blends. We're getting very, very large in how we're able to use all these different countries together, like wines did about 10, 12 years ago.
Well, I think it's also shifted your guys' portfolio quite a bit. Again, like going back to what I was saying about the classic, iconic brands, but also the blends and the tobaccos you were using. Nicaragua's blowing up. All I don't know the numbers, but I can only imagine that the market share was getting stolen away on a lot of the brick and mortars and even online from some of these iconic brands. It's like, oh, my dad smoked Monte Cristos. My dad, my grandpa smoked H. Upmanns and all this stuff. And you hear like, the Cuban brands. I heard, Kennedy did this before he signed the blah, blah, all that stuff. But as soon as all this other stuff came out and people started smoking some of this other stuff, and they started enjoying it. I mean, it was I don't know. It's just a brilliant move by a company that your size to really listen to the market and to be able to make a shift like that. And it shows on a lot of the top 25 lists, the highly rated cigars out there. Some of your brands, no offense, I don't see a Monte Cristo Classic Series on a top 25 in quite some time in most major publications. It's not that it's not a bad selling blend, but the White Series is still king.
It's the workhorse.
It's the king.
Yeah.
But I don't see Monte Cristo White in monthly ratings. I don't see it on top 25s usually anymore. And you see from your guys' portfolio all of these heavy hitters that are just kind of coming out of nowhere and are almost quickly getting to a point that it's expected from you guys. Like, what's your next great one from, whoever you're working with this time?
Well, I think the passion shows.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. Listening to the market, as Travis said, knowing what they want, what the cigar consumers are asking for and what is in demand, listening to that, and then going back and finding the blends that best fit that profile. And there's a lot to say. The passion is there, and that's what I'm most proud about our company is the passion that we from the sales reps to the people in the office, and then translating to the farms and our blenders. It's pretty amazing what products that we're putting out.
Well, and that answers Ray. I want to put the question up on the board there because he comes from the apparel industry, from his career there, and he asked that what are certain things that drive the cigar smoker, that they're buying. You mentioned, Travis, current following the Nicaraguan tobacco, for example. I mean, that's absolutely right. I mean, you have to listen to the market. If you're not open to change or at least growing while staying true to some of your stuff, you're going. I mean, that doesn't matter. I don't think any industry you will die if you just stick with what you think is best. Sitting around a conference table or whatever, from a business standpoint, you're like, all right, no, we're going to still do what we do. And like, but this is what's going on in reality out there. No, we're going to stay the course and become that dinosaur. And just eventually. One
of the biggest differences, just off of what he said, cigars, we can react within a, 1 year to 18-month time frame. 1 year be kind of a rush to create a blend, go to market, and build box, the NTPs and all that. Where I've heard that fashion is like 5 years out. That there you go. So I hear that fashion is like 5 years out. They already know 5 years from now what the fashion is going to do. Like they're already planned. They just are toying with us like puppets.
Yeah.
That comes from somebody who worked on the inside. I was like, really? I didn't know this. So we're able to react, and we've been very thankful and appreciative that the people have been open and honest with us to tell us what they want. And if we make one and it's not to their liking, and not just one, but like a group, of individuals, if it's not working, we are excited to make some changes to get that cigar right for you. So people have been wonderful, and we're very open-minded and very thankful to everybody to to enjoy the stuff that we're creating.
Yeah, but I want to go back real quick and point, and then we'll come back to your point, Nate, that you wanted to talk. What Travis said that I don't want to skip over. The cigar. Everybody knows the making process, but I mean, think about that from a marketing standpoint and a blending standpoint. That they're working on a blend of cigars that we're not going to see come to market for another 1.5 to 2 years minimum, right?
Yeah, minimum.
1 year is I mean, that's a rush, right?
That's
and so it's 1.5 to 2 years till the cigar is going to come to market. So I mean, that's pretty amazing timeline.
I think one of the things that we've seen over the last 10 to 15 years is cigar smokers have changed. It's not just, your dad or your grandfather that's smoking, Monte Cristos and Fuentes and like some of your big brands that have been around for 100 years. I think over the last 10, 15 years, we've seen a lot of newer cigar smokers that they want something different. They want something complex. They want bold. They want flavor. And so I think that's kind of what's also driven that change from primarily Dominican cigars to more of the Honduran and Nicaraguan cigars, is because the different soil types and blending it, they're able to get different cigars, different flavors. And that's what is, I think, appealing to a lot of cigar smokers over the last decade is they want new, they want bold, they want different than, what their parents did. We saw that with the bourbon industry. Bourbon was a big thing. And then in the 60s, it kind of shifted to clear spirits because people didn't want to drink what their parents drank. And so there was a change in culture. And I think we've seen that in the cigar industry as well, but more recently.
Yeah. What's the move to add this particular blend to this series?
This is ongoing. This will be available going forward.
No, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. That's good news. Actually, this is a regular production. What I'm saying is what I'm asking. Why add this to this collaboration series with H. Upmann? Why go with the Matafina wrapper? Why was what was the thought? Is there a gap there in that series, or is this just because when we're talking about
it's an
this
opportunity,
right?
I mean, I think it's a huge opportunity, right? You're looking at H. Upmann and what H. Upmann has done, what the collaboration series did to the H. Upmann brand. First coming out with that teal blue that Travis had mentioned, the H. Upmann by AJ, with the Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper, then coming out with the Grupo de Maestros, the Connecticut, and that gave a different profile to a Connecticut, a little bit more spice to it, and then the
Hispaniola,
the Jose Menendez, the Hispaniola that paid tribute to the island of Hispaniola and utilizing that Andullo tobacco. That was quite amazing. Did we smoke that on the podcast?
Yeah, we've done that one. We talked about that process.
The slice of tobacco, Travis, that you gave us, and the Andullo process, right? And what that does to the cigar and the aromatic and the spices that are in that. And then finally to come to this. And I say finally, I don't mean that this is the period at the end of the collaboration sentence, but a Brazilian Matafina. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations, and I don't remember the last time that a cigar in our industry donned a Brazilian Matafina. There has been a couple, but I believe what I had thought was the Soprano was the last one that had a Brazilian Matafina.
Yeah, they changed that blend after that first year, I think, because of availability of that wrapper leaf. But yeah, you'll see Matafina pop up, obviously, in the blends of tobacco for sure. I don't remember what like the CAO Brasilia uses.
Matafina.
So when you see it, but the Arapiraca is definitely the one that I've been seeing more of as far as releases. We tend to forget too that when we talk about what you guys are like when a cigar idea comes to fruition, there's a lot of push and pull. I love hearing that because I always wondered how the process was with AJ or with the Plasencia family when you brought Rafael Nodal into the picture and what his role is with the Grupo de Maestros, and how you had great success with that AJ Room Nicaragua, which we have featured on here when it had that Cigar of the Year a couple years back. It's always fascinating. I'm sure it goes both ways, honestly. Once you create this relationship with someone like AJ Fernandez, this is conversation starters. It's like, all right, well, we're thinking we might want to add this to the portfolio somewhere. And you guys have a bunch of different brands. Obviously, AJ's worked with the Trinidad we talked about before we went on the air, the Espiritu #1 and the Espiritu #2, which also was a Brazilian wrapper with Brazilian tobacco in the filler combo, I believe, as well. But it's like, I imagine, and maybe you guys have some light on this, is that it's conversations like, I also have this this tobacco that's been aging for 6 years that we want to utilize it in a blend for you, and like, what is the starting point sometimes with this? Is it, all right, we want another H. Upmann, collaboration cigar. Let's do a Brazilian one. Or is it the fact that sometimes it'll be a conversation between the parties that be, and AJ or Plasencia is like, hey, we've got a great idea. Like, let's branch off. We got this great wrapper leaf that we want to do a special project with you. And then you do the 15 to 20 blends as the tweaks and what does it go well with? Like, do we need to tweak it a little bit here or there? Is there a typical starting point working with a company like Altadis, to your guys' knowledge? Is it always going to them and they have open arms, or is it done once that relationship's begun, it goes both ways?
It does go both ways. A lot of times it's us kind of driving that bus, because remember, marketing has a plan that goes out 18 to 24 months on new brand launches that we could be proposing, because we have to be able to have time to create these. But when we have these ideas, the first one to go to Rafael, and then he'll go to AJ and AJ, have you got some ideas? And he may say, yeah, I've had a couple of things that I'm thinking about trying. Let's try them that fit this idea that you have. Or it could be Rafael. Now, a lot of people don't realize Rafael actually, when he first got into the cigar business, before he started building his own cigars, he wanted to learn about it. So he actually went and lived with Plasencia down in Nicaragua for 3 years. So we could learn the tobaccos, being down there with them, spending the time with it to get to, become one with tobacco. And that's what you need to be, is one with the tobacco to create some wonderful blends. So by having that, you're going to meet everybody that's down there. You're going to get to know everybody that's down there, because Esteli is not very big. So he got to know AJ. Well, that friendship really developed, and it's not uncommon that he may just go, well, you're down here. You know where these barns are, and I've got this barn over here, and you might go check this one. These were looking good in his aging barns, because AJ will put up 12 to 15 new aging barns every year.
That's insane.
To just age tobaccos. Now, that's also with filling what he took the previous year. So he's growing way more than he needs, but that's why he's so hot right now.
Yeah.
He's got all these great aged tobaccos to not have that bitterness, different than what you guys were tasting, the flavored style, but the bitterness from the ammonias that are in there. He's aged all that out. So his tobaccos are true flavored gems, but he'll say, well, hey, you know where the tobaccos are. And sometimes Rafael will go and pull these tobaccos out. And he's like, oh, you found that. Oh, shoot, that's good tobacco. Let's play with that. And they'll start playing with it, and it's fun to watch these two guys. It's like brothers that really get along, not the brothers that are fighting for attention, but the brothers that really just want to have fun. And that's what those two guys are doing. Watching
a prime example. I mean, he's down there right now. Right. Yeah. Rafael is down with AJ.
You said
right
that
now.
today. Yeah. You're trying to get him to join us. And they're like, no, we'll be driving back from wherever, like
San Latano. Yeah. The San Latano factory. And I believe they're celebrating AJ's birthday. So happy birthday to you, AJ.
Happy birthday, AJ Fernandez. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's next for the H. Upmann line? Do we have anything coming out? I know it's kind of early, especially when we're just launching this here. You guys are really
why,
pushing us out
why
here.
talk about what's next?
I don't know, because
when we're talking
this
about
is such a good.
I
know
the heritage right now.
It's
I
good.
mean,
Well, we talked about this cigar for 40 minutes, so that's long enough. What's next?
Yeah, like a lot of people that come into a cigar shop. What's new? Well, did you like the last one? Yeah, I really liked it. What's new today?
Well, hold on real quick, because having Travis on, give us a little bit of a difference, Travis, in between the aforementioned Trinidad Espiritu utilizes a Brazilian Arapiraca wrapper, and
we're pretty close, by the way.
Well, yeah, did I say that wrong?
You're pretty darn close.
Arapiraca.
Little roll, right? Little roll.
Arapiraca.
Bringing
Yeah,
that out.
you got it right there.
Just like Woody Woodpecker. Arapiraca, Arapiraca,
I like
Arapiraca.
that. That's the best way I've heard it explained.
And so and then what we're smoking today, which is the H. Upmann Heritage that dons the Brazilian Matafina. So can you talk about the differences, Travis?
Sure. The biggest differences is you got to think about the Brazil and where these two regions are that are growing in. Now, Matafina is at a little lower elevation point, where Arapiraca is a lot higher. Now, having a higher elevation point, we talked about that oxygen in the air. The lack of oxygen allows these plants, or makes those plants grow stunted or almost a little shorter. The leaves are a little bit smaller, but the root ball that's growing the plant doesn't change much. They still starve it for water. They still allow that struggle to go on. So those root balls get really low but wide. Bringing all those nutrients in, those leaves have a ton of nutrients and sugars that are in them. So Arapiraca is actually known as the land of Maduro in Brazil. That land of Maduro in Brazil, that's Arapiraca. So you go to Matafina, little lower in elevation, the oxygen is better. Nutrients start at the mountains and work their way down. So the nutrients are more plenty, but they don't need it as much because of all that oxygen that's in the air. So your leaf is actually going to be a little bit lighter. Now, what does it do for the flavors? The spice notes are typically going to be a little bigger in Matafina. But we found that with the fermentation and the leaf selection they used on the wrappers with both of these, we find that the Brazilian one that we did with Trinidad, the series number 2, that actually has more of that bold, in-your-face, black peppery kind of note, but also has a little bit more sweetness to it if you're able to search for it. This Matafina has its own ample supply of that little bit of natural sweetness that'll come through on the tobacco because it didn't have to be fermented as much. They left some of that residual sugar in the leaf, some of that sucrose that's in the leaf. So it does have that little bit of natural sweetness in there. But it does, between the two, the Trinidad is going to have more of that medium to full body. It's going to be a little more pronounced in the strength level, but also in the way the flavors come across. This one, these come across almost like a fine aged wine. They're complex, but you don't have to search very far, but they're not going to punch in the mouth to get there. You're going to have to look for them sometimes, but there are plenty. There's a lot going on. And it also has a nice smoother character. You probably notice in the back of the throat, where, some of that's not like your rye, but it does have that nice subtle smoothness in the back of that throat. And that's the selection of the Nicaraguan tobaccos that are used in that.
And this is Brazilian wrapper, Nicaraguan throughout, correct? Mm-hmm. Where the Trinidad also utilized Nicaraguan binder, but then Nicaraguan and Brazilian in the filler.
Yep.
Is that Arapiraca filler as well, or is that Matafina filler? Do you know? Do we know? Is that released?
Arapiraca. But okay. I didn't say that.
Huh?
I said Arapiraca, but I didn't say that.
Okay. Allegedly, that's what it is.
Also, your viewership is lower than 30,000.
It is lower.
Okay, good.
I also noticed on this wrapper, it's got those nice.
Make sure you share it though.
It's got those nice like oil crystals that you can see reflecting in the light.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, and I love the color, the marketing behind it. Everything you guys did to add it to that. I mean, that it is I will say that, colors, especially with the Cuban heritage, obviously the colors used on a lot of the stuff, in Cuba, especially Havana, you guys have hit kind of some nice colors with the four cigars in this series. So when they're on a shelf or the boxes are sitting next to each other, the marketing, it really goes, I think it flows. We didn't talk about that a whole lot.
Yeah.
Is that it flows very well with that. And I mean, almost in my mind, I think maybe a lot of people's that lighter yellow is the more milder cigar, not necessarily like you said, it's like mild plus, mild to medium.
Yep.
Then you got the Hispaniola, it's more like a medium bodied, it's got, I think that one, if I remember, it's got a little warm spice to it, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Cinnamon.
And then you go with that kind of teal blue, and now you're getting into the cooler colors, it's going to be a little bit more bold. And now you have this. What color are we calling this exactly?
Would you say that's a royal blue, Travis?
I'm color stupid, so I would say yes. That'd be right.
Cyan, is that a
That's
color?
all marketing.
Cyan.
Cyan, is that blue?
No, cyan is red, isn't it?
Crimson.
No. We're back to the heritage now, Travis.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, I mean, it's kind of a cool flow from kind of the mild up to the fuller, hardier stuff. I think it flows nicely. I mean,
a little deeper than a royal blue, probably.
Definitely.
Yeah.
When I say it fits
the band, what blue is that there? Cerulean.
Cerulean blue.
Cerulean. There's an American spirit that's called that. Yeah, there is. You have to look it up. Bright blue. All right. Anyways, it's gorgeous.
If any of your viewers know what that color is, maybe they could, point it out to them, let them look at the color on the box, and then they could chime in.
The audience, the garage audience, the podcast audience has spoke.
Okay.
It's
Cerulean.
Cerulean. Cerulean?
Yes.
Cerulean.
All right. All right. We're anyways, it's a beautiful blue shade.
Yeah, but that's a little bit of those
darker,
differences
not quite
between
midnight. It's
Aromatics
not
and
navy.
Montefina, which were the two major, growing regions up there. Aromatics and Montefina, those are it. Those are the ones. But it's amazing how we can reverse what typical you'd see out of those two regions.
Yeah.
Usually Montefina is a little bolder, but this one we made a little more mellower because it worked well.
To your point, Steve, the marketing really accentuates the colors of the wrapper and the cigar, and really makes that dark Montefina pop, and then going to the Trinidad Espiritu too, that green and that little Brazilian style band really makes that Brazilian
I think
Arapiraca pop.
There we go. Attaboy.
I think when we talked about the Trinidad, like I said, I'll bring it back. You have, again, I appreciate what you guys have been doing with some of these iconic brands. And for those that haven't tried some of them, because I know that there are cigar smokers out there that they steer clear of something that says H. Upmann, something that says Monte Cristo, something that says Trinidad, because they're more of those boutique smokers. They like the new stuff and all of that. I like the combination of the direction of these blends. I like the combination of, and that Trinidad Espiritu #1, the artwork on that was a flat out ode to Cuban art. And I think maybe, and I don't know if that was the intention or not. Yeah, look up on the screen there. Travis has got it up there. But you took some brand new blends with some of the hottest tobaccos that are available from some of the biggest names that are available in farms and factories, and you combined it with some of the heritage, which is what this is called, behind the Cuban namesakes.
Yeah,
I think that is probably going to be overlooked by many, but I truly think, you look up on the screen there, that's the Trinidad, that's the Espiritu #2.
Yeah, and this is telling the story of Brazil, where the series #1 was telling the story of Cuba. And then the story of series #3 is going to be, stay tuned.
Come on. Been waiting on that for a couple years now.
Son of a.
All right.
Let's just say you won't be disappointed.
Good.
I smoked it. I'm like, wow.
Right,
can you give me some of these bundles ahead of time? Don't put a band on it. Just let me smoke these. And they won't let me.
But real quick, and taking on a little bit of a rabbit trail, going back to the blending part, was really cool. Travis had the opportunity and put together an impeccable farm and factory tour of La Flor de Copan in Santa Rosa de Copan, Honduras. and we got that right before the pandemic hit in February of 2020, and it was so cool. The appreciation that the people of La Flor de Copan had, but the experience. And so I say that because upon arrival, we got to go into the factory, and they opened up a library of tobacco, and we got to choose our own blend on the first day. And from the wrapper, the binder, and then the fillers, we got to choose 3 fillers, a binder, a wrapper, write all of those down. And then on the last day of the tour, we were presented with a box and a bundle with our blend of cigar and our name across the band. So it's very cool. I have shared a cigar from the bundle with you two here on the podcast.
Yes, you have.
And
Casa de Bentley.
Yeah.
Like
and then I still have the box unopened of 10 cigars that I've let sit now for 2 years.
Your blend is still talked about in Copan.
Well, and I mean, that's really cool because one of the things that Elmer said, one of our Grupo de Maestros there with Travis, said, if you think any of your blends, stand up and would be able to be a national brand, talk to Travis and he'll go back and I use some of my favorites, but I mean, it is we can talk about that a little bit further. But then a certain part of that, and maybe we'll have to do that the next time I'm on the podcast. We got to plant our own plant. In Yaguara, the Yaguara Farms. Okay,
5 plants, wasn't it?
5. Yeah. Excuse me. It was 5
5 in a row. And we put your sign like right in front of your tobacco, and
we did. It had our name on it. Criollo 98 was
nice.
The varietal that we were planting. And so we got pictures of that. And then Travis had the people of La Flor de Copan take pictures at the different growing periods.
I got an update every week.
Every week
we got a picture
and send them to us. So if that wasn't enough, I arrived home last Friday to a box of my cigar from my plant in La Flor de Copan, of cigars that were made entirely from the plants that I planted.
So Puro from those 5 plants.
You get to have all that fun.
Travis, is that correct? Actually, it was a Puro of.
It was a Puro from the 5 plants that you planted.
No kidding.
They harvested them. We got pictures through the growth, through the beginning stages of curing and various, because that was like right at the beginning of we weren't very far into COVID. So the guys that were working did their best to take pictures, but we had everyone's tobacco segregated, and it was like in their own area. So when we went to fermentation, we put flags, little colored flags on everybody's tobaccos that were going through fermentation. Once it was all done being fermented, they let it age a little bit, and then the grupos individually for everybody's tobaccos, they went through and picked the tobaccos from Seco, Viso, Lajero, and said, this is a blend, the base blend, 1 Lajero, 2 Viso, and 1 Seco. Let's create cigars using just your tobaccos. And then the wrapper leaf, they hand selected the wrapper leaves that were going to be used on the 10 cigars they made. And that way, everybody's cigars that went on the trip are not the same. But this is probably one of the only ones that's going to be a Criollo 98 Puro from the same crop. But it's fun, right? It's your tobacco. You grew it. You got to watch it being baby and grow up into the adulthood. And now you get to enjoy your fine cigar and a hand of tobacco.
It's a hell of an experience.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
You got to bring that hand of tobacco down to them and let them see it.
Yeah. I should. So
did you smoke one yet?
Yeah, I did.
And
on Saturday. I mean, it was such a neat experience. At first, I'm getting all of these different flavors, on the dry when I first cut it, and then smoking it. I mean, it was a neat experience. That's it. That's what I can say. I was drinking a rye alongside of it, and I'm definitely going to share it, and I'll share pictures. So, the next time I'm here,
I need to hear a review of it, really,
that will, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that when we rate it, because I want to see what you guys think and give unbiased answers.
That's amazing. That's cool. That's a great experience.
So around
I want you to remember, these are only 5 plants and they're all the same varietal. So you're not going to be looking for this knockout, like amazing blend.
Sure.
But the experience of going through it all together and to taste what your tobacco was in just that one. It'd be like smoking a Puro for testing tobacco to put into a blend. This is one thing. It's fun. It was very fun to do.
You said it's Criollo 98?
Criollo 98, yep.
I love that as a wrapper leaf. So
yeah, it was cool. That. So 10 cigars, you open up the box, 10 cigars in the center, and then around your cigars was raw tobacco with a tag on it that that talks about the selection of the tobacco. I had my name on it, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
top notch.
They did a great job, and a lot of that was driven by them. So we owe a lot to that factory, and it just shows how much love and passion. Not only to have the people up there, it's beyond that. It's the way they make the cigars, the way we expect it in Tabacalera de Garcia in Dominican Republic, Honduras, or even from Plasencia and AJ. We really go down there and try and help remind the people, this is who you're building for. You got to be passionate about this business. And they are. And that just shows it right there.
Well, I wanted to ask real quick before we go to someone in our studio audience.
We do still need to go to the bourbon here at some point.
Yeah,
or the rye.
Real quick, back to this Heritage.
Yeah.
Does it come in multiple sizes, and what is the price point?
Yeah. Good question. Price points right around the same price points as the H. Upmann by AJ. So that $9 to $10, $11 price point, depending on taxes.
Shocked faces out in the audience.
Okay. Don't ask me how we get them that cheap.
Yeah. I mean, it is truly unbelievable. So
that's a bang for buck stick right there.
Your typical sizes here. You got a Robusto, a Toro, a Torpedo, and a Churchill. And then I'm going to throw one, a little curveball for all you cigar and tobacco lovers.
Don't say there's a 55 ring gauge.
There is a Corona.
Corona. Ooh. I didn't know if you're going to go Corona or Lancero.
60. Yeah.
There it is.
There's that. I haven't tried it yet.
Oh.
That's it. That's
got to be a powerful little smoke.
It is, but if you remember to smoke it really slow, you won't be gang rushed with that strength and that overburnt flavor. The flavors are immense, and I smoked one of these in an hour and 10-minute commute. Smoked one of these down, got to the band. That's when it finished. It smoked slow, and it was very, very tasty.
Nice.
I mean, I don't know if you can see that ash, but I mean,
solid.
Like it is.
That's the Corona, Travis.
That's the Corona here. Yeah.
It's fantastic. All right, we have a question here from the live audience here. Go ahead, Eric.
It's not so much of a question as there's a comment. It's actually about something that hasn't been discussed yet.
A little closer to the mic.
Sorry, is that good?
Yes.
Test. Is the construction. You guys haven't touched on the construction much, and there's a compliment that I guess I want to pay to this that I don't see very often in hardly any cigars. Actually, only one comes to mind. If you guys remember the LFD La Nox from a while ago, the Ecuadorian wrapper. This has a very similar feel to it. It's not squishy, it's not soft. It has a firmness to it, which in a lot of cases is like a cautionary thing, because it's like it's stiff, it's going to fall apart, etc. Whereas with this one, that's nowhere near true. This is incredibly solid. There's no flaking, there's no anything like that. And I don't know about everybody else, but for me, I'm hanging on to it. I'm doing something. I'm doing chores. I'm doing something around the house or whatever. It'll get squishy towards the end. And I started smoking this when you guys started, and I'm way past halfway. It is still incredibly firm. It has perfect draw. It hasn't changed. It hasn't collapsed or anything. Usually, I'm a quick smoker.
Yeah.
So I have a tendency of pulling the softness out of cigars when they probably shouldn't be. And this is rock solid. It has kept every bit of structural integrity that you would want. And it's really hard to find something that's both full-bodied, that you can smoke quickly, and retains this rigidity, this structural integrity and without cracking, without flaking, without having runs, without having little pockets of like expansion from the heat.
Yeah.
This is hard to find, and especially for that price point, because I'm used to never being able to find that.
Well, after Josh lit it up, Josh had a solid 2-inch ash on his cigar.
I had an 1.5 inches back here, and I was wondering if it was going to fall on me. It didn't. It was a gorgeous little toothiness going on the ash only. Loved it. It's just you don't feel them like this anymore. When Steve and Brandon brought back cigars from Cuba, that was like the last time I felt a cigar that felt this firm but continued to have that much draw without feeling dried out.
Yeah.
It's a unique composition, and it's really enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for those compliments, Eric. That's I mean, the brilliant white ash on it too. I think is it plumes smoke. I do agree with you. I think the construction goes AJ and the people at his factory are just doing impeccable work, right? Not only in the vault of tobacco that they have, but the construction of the cigar. So, yeah.
Well, I know this is a part of a collaboration series with the other ones, the Connecticut and the Hispaniola. I will say that at least from my experience from the retail standpoint as well, is that the Nicaragua from AJ was and I don't know what the selling is for you guys as far as that goes, but that was there was a constant surprise by people based on the price point, based on what it was. And the H. Upmann name almost getting revitalized is that has been a continued success from my vantage point, just in the overall scope of things. And then this one, again, being from AJ, almost as a follow-up within the own series, the collaboration series. This is, to Eric's point, this is something that I think will have some staying power for some fuller-bodied smokers. I really do. I mean, this is something that, because of the construction, it's almost similar in a sense to the Nicaragua with the more paler blue band on it.
Yeah.
Is that there was constant feedback. Oh, construction's amazing. This, it's a great everyday smoke because of the price point, but you're getting so much more bang for your buck on that.
Yeah.
And I think this will follow suit, which is great to see.
Well, it goes off the notoriety too, Steve, right? Of the acclamation that H. Upmann by AJ Fernandez in the teal blue got, and this follows it up, and I think does a impeccable job. From the compliments that we've got, and from the very little that it's been in the market, which is 1 week, and what we've seen on social media, what we've heard from retailers, and consumers alike. I think that this is going to be a great product with what you said, Steve. Great staying power.
Yeah.
And me personally, I'm a guy that likes cigars for me. I don't live off ratings. I don't live off of the voices. I live off of what I like personally. But I feel that for me, I've kind of been able to kind of dictate what's going to be in the top 5, what's going to be in the top 10, just off other manufacturers and myself, what I like and what I see the industry kind of doing. I personally could see this being a contender in someone's list, because it is going to be up on my list. I can't seem to put these things down typically.
And the last thing I'd like to say about this, and then we can touch on the whiskey. What I see also with AJ broadened across all these portfolios, his own included. There was a stint, and I've talked about on here, is that when he was doing a lot of these Nicaraguan puros for a lot of different companies, including some of your guys', there was some distinct ones, and there was also, I felt like, a little bit of an overlap with, like, some of the blends were just like a hair off, right? Not just within Altadis' portfolio, but I'm talking about everyone he's working with, including his own portfolio. This one, for example, though, I would say is more unique coming out of AJ's factories that you guys are utilizing. And that has to be the influence of the Grupo de Maestros. This has to be something where it's like, hey, we don't just want another medium Nicaraguan Puro from AJ Fernandez. We need something unique with some special tobacco. And I think this is more very unique, as was the Upmann Nicaragua with the blue band. I mean, that was different. I mean, there were a lot of releases in the last 2-3 years, 4 years, that had AJ's name behind it, that were Nicaraguan throughout, that were medium bodied, and you smoke them almost back to back. You're like, that's an AJ medium body Nicaragua cigar. Absolutely. And then the Upmann came out and was like, this is different. This comes out. This is different. I like the uniqueness of it.
And really the using the Brazilian wrapper, not only in the Espiritu #2, but also this one, it was going to find these rare and unique tobaccos to actually go out to Brazil, having the buyers go out and say, this is a very unique leaf. Excuse me. And taking it back to AJ and let him doing a second and third fermentation process on it, really putting that final little touch point when it comes to the fermentation to draw out the best of the best that leaf had to offer. And that's what makes some of these really charismatic over his atypical, just grow it, cure it, ferment it. Okay, it looks good. Let's do a little touch. This has got a little more care into it. But I felt that the like you mentioned, the first two, that Sumatran leaf is just very smooth, very just silky on the tongue. And the steam that it goes down there, it just seems to melt in because that tobacco is just so delicately smooth. I mean, it's just wonderful. But then if you look at the aging room Cuatro, Nicaragua, right? That's another one that wasn't your atypical. That was something unique and different. And that's all coming from one location. So AJ is really have a big hand in that, and knowing that smaller fermentation piles, sometimes not overstacking with building up heat uneven within the distribution of the tobacco, really plays a big role in that. He cares about it a lot.
The care, I think, shows with the subtleties and the nuances that come through some of these blends, and this is one of those. I mean, again, the subtleties in a bolder, hardier blend like this is not always that's just not always found either, because sometimes it is just kind of punch you in the mouth or in the throat, and this one does not do that. I mean, there are those nuances and subtleties to this blend that I think that what you're talking about, Travis, it really follows through all the way to the person that's enjoying it and having the experience of smoking this particular blend versus the countless others out there, even some that have a similar makeup on paper. There's definitely some of that care you're talking about and the extra steps taken with that fermentation process. I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a lifestyle that we all love and enjoy. We hope everybody's enjoying the lifestyle that we have fun putting together, not unlike another hobby that a lot of us have. And the other one kind of emulates the same thing, kind of like bourbons.
Yeah.
Incorrect?
That's absolutely on point. And it's a great segue for us too. Thank you, Travis. That was brilliant. That was intentional. He's good. So we are sipping on here. Are you sipping on anything, Travis, in the garage?
I am.
What are you sipping on?
I'm sipping on my old standby, Diet Coke.
How many years are on that one?
How many years am I old? Quite a few.
All right. So this is the Nashville Barrel Company. This is a pick that Josh Bentley brought with him to the garage and was able to get his hands on. If I could, and then Nate, you've got some information on Nashville Barrel Company, but this says straight white rye whiskey. It's selected by, and Nate will go into this a little bit. It's selected by a certain organization. On there, it is handwritten, 8 years old, barrel number 523. The proof is going to be 113.36. So in that barrel strength region, it's not going to be the hottest or strongest proof that we've had on the podcast, but it's in that well above the everyday kind of mass produced stuff. That equates to 56.68%. Their beautiful bottle, classic kind of wine bottle looking thing here. Nice embossment on the stickers here. And then on the back is a custom sticker for that group. Are you allowed to say what that says on there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they call this, if you guys are familiar with barrel picks from groups and different stores as well, bars, sometimes they'll name it and they'll put their own artwork on there. And this says Spy versus Rye, which is an ode to that kind of cartoon, the Spy versus Spy. You guys probably can't
black
see
and white.
The black and white. This has the white holding a bottle of the front of the bottle on there. So Nate, what do you have on the Nashville Barrel Company?
So on a lot of their stuff, they're just called NBC. So I'll just use that initials. I'm not talking about the media company.
Legal stuff there.
But they are located in Nashville, just east of downtown Nashville. It was three friends that they bought their first barrel back in 2018. So they're not that old of a company. They are sourcing stuff from MGP, as Josh's friend, who was part of the group that picked this barrel, told us. Their barrel picks started gaining a lot of popularity. So they started doing more and more of them. February of 2020, right before the world went crazy, they did their first single barrel rye. And then in March of 21, they actually opened a distillery in order to be able to house all the different barrels that they have been procuring. One thing I thought was interesting that I read about them, because a lot of these companies, when they're starting out and they're going and they're sourcing whiskeys, those distillers will have certain barrels like, all right, yeah, you can pick from this. We'll sell you these barrels right here. They actually turn down 90% of the barrels that are offered to them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they are very picky about what barrels they are getting. They're looking for certain flavors, certain notes, certain characteristics of the whiskeys that they're picking. So they're not a very large company. They do have some different tour packages, anything from just your basic 3-flight tasting to one program they have. It's like a mock barrel pick, where you actually will get to sample from 4 different barrels. And then the group, there's 12 people in a group. They will actually then pick, like, okay, which barrel do we like the best? And then each person in that group will get a bottle from that barrel.
Oh, neat experience.
Yeah. And it's like a 60 to 90 minute tour along with that. So it's a very in-depth product. They do a rye. They just call this one the rye. It's a 75% rye, 5% malted barley. It's usually between 5 and 9 years for the rye, and this one's coming in at 8. They do a small batch rye that's going to be 4 to 8 year, but at least 25% of that is going to be 8-year rye. That's 100 proof. That's a $60 bottle. I think Josh, your friend, said this was $60.
$119
times 2.
Okay.
Times 2.
They do a 5 to 8 year bourbon blend. They do a rum. They do a cask strength bourbon, cask strength rye, which is a little different than what this was. And then they do a couple of finish. They do a honey finish and a maple finish.
Okay.
Honey finish bourbon, maple finish rye.
Yeah.
So they've got a few different things that they do. Yeah. So they've only been around for about 4 years. But they kind of hit the industry when things were hot. Mm-hmm. They kind of felt that there was such a high demand for whiskeys and not a great deal of supply. And so they used, their knowledge and what they like in a whiskey to go to, someone like MGP that produces a lot of whiskey for other people, and just buy some of those barrels that they've kind of been sitting on in order to, come up with a product and put that out to market.
What do you guys think?
You know me, I'm a rye guy.
You're a rye guy.
And
I agree with you.
I really enjoy this bottle. On the palate, I got some cinnamon and some fruit notes, or on the nose, some cinnamon and fruit on the nose. And then on the palate, I still get some cinnamon, but there was also some salted caramel in there that I think actually is richer with this cigar. Yeah, because sometimes, like, going back and forth, going cigar, whiskey, cigar, sometimes you might get more spice doing one way than the other. But this one, either direction I go, whether I smoke the cigar and then go to the whiskey, or drink the whiskey and then smoke the cigar, like, they go really well together. And this cigar just kind of makes the sweetness of this whiskey a little thicker.
Yeah, it does. It was fresh crack on it, and we had a little sip pre-episode, and it was different, right? When we first poured it, and before it opened up, it was pretty complex. Go ahead and let's talk about Ian's statement.
So Ian Hummel here, he comments because he was a part of it, right?
Yeah, he was part of the procuring this bottle and this barrel.
So you said, it was almost 9 years, right? It says this one is 8 years, 363-day rye.
Yep.
Just couldn't wait.
That's right.
Wait.
That's exactly.
And then he
right.
says the 9-year age statement increases the price quite a bit. So
yeah,
yeah.
it does. I mean, it shows too. It definitely does. I mean, thinking back to some younger ryes that we've had both on the podcast you guys have had, and it going back to my statement, it opened up, right? You know, as we were drinking it after the episode began, and then smoking it alongside once we get into the ratings. It was hard for me to decipher where the sweetness was coming from, whether it was coming from the tobacco, and then that cinnamon flavor that Nate mentioned before. I mean, it's a great sipping whiskey, I think. What do you think, Steve?
I agree with both of you guys. What you're saying, Josh, about how it opens up a little bit as your palate gets used to it a little bit more, right? So like the nerve endings have kind of dulled a little bit. It loses that immediate. You said cinnamon on the nose. I got a little bit of that kind of sensation. The cinnamon finish. The first sip before we went on the air, we all took a sip of it. We got like a bunch of idiots. We just sit there kind of like looking at the glass and looking at each other and like waiting for someone to talk here. And one of the first things I said, and this is how delayed the finish was, because we were kind of quiet. I was like, "Oh, it starts nice, starts nice," and it was such a delayed finish. I'm talking longer, like it was like a good 10 seconds.
Yeah,
it was a good 10 seconds before you finally started in the back of the throat to the chest a little bit. You got that finish of a heat to it. Again, at 113 and some change, it was surprising how long the experience was, especially on that initial sip. It was enjoyable. Now sipping on it after smoking the great cigar with it, and now that we're getting to that point in the podcast, we're going to go to the ratings. It has definitely mellowed out. It's more balanced between not only your palate getting used to it, but I think having the cigar, talking for a little while. Now we're over an hour doing this. It's just, it doesn't now at this point. I'm on like my second and a half glass. I topped off a little bit. We're halfway through the bottle with an hour or so into it. So it's a decent pace that we're all on our second, or maybe, we're starting our third pour. It's become a very nice sipper. It's not as much of a initial nightcap type of a sip that first glass was. This has really just opened up to the point, like you said, Josh, that I think that you don't get that heat at the end. Ian says, which barrel number was this? It says barrel number 523.
523. And so real quick, the first bottle that this group picked was it was kind of in question what it was going to be, and then it was really special because the bottle was had the Bengals winning the conference, and so them going to the Super Bowl and was just really great. And so this was the second procurement, or the second barrel that this group got, if I stated that correctly. And let me know that they quickly procured and offered up to the group, which was pretty awesome.
Again, great experience for them, obviously, and now for us to have this. That cinnamon does that. The heat kind of stays with you, but it's more of I don't want to go full blown, like, stick a big red, you know what I mean? But it's kind of like when you first stupid, but when you first start chewing a stick of big red, and it's just all the cinnamon in your face, and then like whatever, 15 minutes later, it tastes like stale cinnamon. We're staying right in that sweet spot. You know what I mean? Right in that sweet spot. Really enjoyable. You're loving that cinnamon flavor. A little bit of sweetness to it, but it's that warm spice. I think maybe, Josh, one of the first times you're on the podcast, we're going back 3+ years ago, we had talked about that. The E.H. Taylor Straight Rye was one of my favorites, one of your favorites as well. You brought it on there. That's one of those Christmas Day type spices that we talk about with that. The Willet, when they were doing the 3-year rye, kind of an everyday 3-year rye, kind of had that. This isn't as much that. This is more of a nice, mellow cinnamon, a little sweet, but it's got that warm spice to it that I really enjoy in a rye.
Yeah.
Like a fall apple pie cinnamon.
It's nice.
It's not the Christmas. It's it's the fall afternoon.
Yep.
Just came back from a hayride. Yeah. Let me pick some pumpkins. I like that. I like that a lot. But so while we still have Travis on, unless you guys want to get a little bit more into this bottle, I think this is a time that we can do round out part 1 here with the ratings.
Yeah.
So what we do on this, I think we kind of said this before to Travis before we went on, but for you guys listening for the first time, we will we'll do a out of 10 rating, 10 being the best. We'll do 3 ratings: the whiskey, the cigar, and then the pairing. And then I know with Travis, you're not sipping on this, so you can rate the Diet Coke if you'd like. I have no problem with that and the pairing of that. But we love going to somewhat the source when we have Josh on. I like to start with him because he's repping the brand, so it's always fun to put you guys kind of in the spotlight right there. But if you don't mind, Travis, go ahead and rate the cigar. And again, if you want to rate how it pairs with Diet Coke, just for those audience members that like that, the Coca-Cola or Diet Coke with the cigar, please, out of 10 being the best.
Well, let me kind of premise this by saying I do all my cigar samplings with the Diet Coke. Now, do I enjoy a good spirit? Josh knows that I do. But Diet Coke is what I drink whenever I want to keep consistency in what I like, because that's what I do the most. The cigar itself, I'm personally out of all the cigars I've tried in my life and the many years I've been doing this, I would put this upwards in that 9.2 range, 9.1, 9.2. I think this will get up maybe to as high as in like a 9.4, 9.5. Given just a little more time, on my own personal opinion. Now, I know people that have said this is perfect the way it is. I just like to see that Mata Fina rest just a little bit more for me. Now, with Diet Coke, I'm going to rate it a 10. All right. Together, I think that I'm gonna keep it up there. I think that the pairing is beautiful. So I won't give that one a score. I'll just leave that one kind of.
There. Yeah, no real rules.
I was surprised that y'all went with a rye with this one, and so I'm going to be very curious to hear what you guys think the rye and the cigar, how these two go together.
Can I ask why you were surprised?
Now, me personally, not being a bourbon expert and a lover of bourbons as you guys are, as passionate about cigar, I do enjoy them, but not like you guys. I always find that it almost has a little bit too much that heat and over zestiness, even on some of the aged ryes that I've drank. Now, I haven't had some of the best stuff. Whenever I come visit Josh, he always hides those bottles from me, I think. But
nice.
I don't. Maybe I'm not drinking the right quality. But I always felt that rye was just going to be a little too hot for this particular one. I was thinking the Aromatics with that series number 2 would be a real good with a rye. And I've done the Romeo by Romeo's and Julieta San Andreas. That one did really well with the rye because it had the balance of it. That the cocoa, the big rich cocoa-y flavors, balancing out that rye, just kind of brought that heat down, made it very mellow and tempered. I felt those two worked really well together, but I'd be very curious to hear what your thoughts are, because I am not a professional in that range. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
All right. Josh.
Yeah. The H. Upmann Nicaragua AJ Heritage, Brazilian Mata Fina, just a phenomenal cigar. It's not my everyday go-to, with the flavor profile, with the strength, but super, super enjoyable. This evening I've enjoyed. I've only had I think this is my third one. It had a lot of dark fruit notes right off of the light. A lot of earthiness that I got from it. Super enjoyable when it came to a fuller bodied, richer cigar, and it really gave way to that rich cigar experience, which I think would be good after a good steak meal.
Oh, 100%,
right?
Yeah.
That both of you guys enjoy, a lot of our listeners enjoy. It stands up to that. A lot of the oils. Smoking this with a steak dinner would be even more enjoyable.
Steak
I think.
Cigar.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, nice.
So with that said, I would like to give it a 9.3. on the H. Upmann Heritage. I thought it was super enjoyable. Going to the NBC straight rye whiskey, very, very enjoyable. As I said, and then Steve reiterated, a great sipper. Opened up on my palate, as we went along. A lot of I would say burnt caramel notes to it. A little bit of that saltiness on the sides of the tongue that Nate said before. I give it a 9. And then the pairing together. At first, I was unsure. Going to my cigar, going back to the bourbon. Nate said, "Hey, wait, hold off and smoke the cigar for a little bit. See if that sweetness that I was getting on the tip of the tongue was actually from the cigar or from the whiskey." Then I went back to the whiskey. As I get down to the very end, the final quarter of the cigar, and then drinking, I don't know if it's the residual rye whiskey on my palate that's bringing out like a dry dark cocoa note, like almost like cacao nibs. If you're familiar with those, I love cacao nibs, but it's that flavor profile that after you chew the cacao nibs that leaves in your mouth, and that's very enjoyable to me. So I give the pairing together a 9.5.
Wow. Nate, go ahead.
All right. Russian judge, right? No.
I don't think you will be on this one. I really don't.
Yeah, you're right. So on the whiskey, I really enjoy this bottle. I'm going to give it a 9. I really enjoy the flavor of this bottle. Recently I'd been drinking another cask strength rye that came in about 10 proof points higher than this. This just has this sweetness, that salted caramel that I talked about earlier, that other one didn't have. And the cinnamon on the finish was much more tamed than that one.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy this bottle. I love a good rye, and this one is definitely enjoyable. So I'm going to give it a 9. On the cigar, I'm a 9 on the cigar as well. Really enjoyable. Love the flavor. Great construction. Great draw. Eric talked about the construction and draw earlier. Coming in at that same price point that we've seen those Upmann blends, the AJ blend, because Eric and Justin in the garage were talking about it to themselves before, and that's why I brought up the price point. They thought this was going to be a $15 to $18 cigar.
Oh, really?
Because it's so good, the quality, the flavor, the richness, and it coming in at that $9-10 price point. That's a phenomenal cigar for that price point. For the pairing, I'm gonna give the pairing a 9.5 as well, as Josh did. I know Travis brought it up. I mean, I think this cigar, because of being medium full body and the richness and the flavor, you need a whiskey that's going to stand up to that cigar. I think a lighter whiskey may get overpowered by this cigar because of how rich and flavorful this cigar is. But with the flavor notes that the cigar has, how I talked about having that coffee, I think it's balanced out by the sweetness of this rye. And so the two of them go really well together. Like I said earlier, sometimes if you go whiskey then cigar, it might bring out more of that cinnamon or more of that spice that was in a whiskey, especially a 95% rye. But this one didn't do that. And going the other way around, it just brought out more sweetness from this rye. And so either way you go, it's a very enjoyable pairing.
Yeah, it's tough to go after you guys because you guys are very, very detailed. And I think you hear some agreement across the board here. So I'll kind of listen to you guys attack a slightly different aspect of it. And this is going to be for the guys that are doing the drinking game. But bring up price on these. We've talked about it, but you guys didn't include it really in the ratings. I'm a 9 on both the whiskey and the cigar. I think that the whiskey, to start with that, if you're going to do a barrel pick, if you come across something on the shelf and you're paying over $100, that is way above average for a bottle on the shelf these days, even though that is going up and you can't find a rye or want to say respectable, but it's tough to find a rye or even a bourbon these days that is going to be below $40. That you're going to be kind of like, you find a $20 to $30 bottle, we've talked about it, it's going to be a steal, right? And that eventually will catch some accolades or awards, and you'll see it start creeping up. Now it's like that $40, $50, $60. Once you get to double that, though, where this is sitting at, you want to, for me, I don't want to be disappointed. I want to feel like my extra money was justified in that purchase. This is exactly that, which is why I would give it a 9. It'd be great if this was less expensive, that you could get on more of a regular basis, because it is surprisingly, all the factors included here, this is something that I could see myself enjoying a good portion of the year. Yeah. You know, if we did this pairing and it was 85 degrees and we're sweating in the garage, may not rate quite as highly as you guys did and what I'm doing with the 9. But I think that it really does fit a lot of people that enjoy ryes. And to your point, Travis, you were surprised to pair this. But I'm with Nate on that as well. And I think Josh is the pairing on this. I'm going to give it a 9.5. So it'd be a 9.5 on the pairing, 9 on both of them. Because the cigar, bringing in, again, the price point that you talked about to Eric's point and Justin, right? You know, you guys are thinking it's going to be, 9.5 or it's going to be
$15
like
to $18 smoke.
This is what we talked about with the other H. Upmann Nicaragua by AJ. This is a bang for your buck. This cigar is punching way above its weight class.
Yeah.
I'd say that. And some of those things that we thought might come with a very hearty, because I've smoked this cigar once before. Josh, you've smoked it before. You said a couple times. It would be what you think maybe tough to pair, because it is a predominant, like kind of a dominant flavor profile. Like you think that it's going to overrule if we went with a wheated bourbon, if we went with something that's more in that 80 to 100 proof type of thing, it could pair up flavor wise. But this cigar does carry this heartiness and punch in all the subtle and all those nuances that we were talking about. It's a balanced punch, if you will. But together, they really do complement each other, but they also stand up next to each other, that nothing is drowned out. And depending on your technique, if you're puffing on the cigar for a little while, and then you might drink a couple sips and set the cigar down, because I'm trying to make this last the first part, and I'm down to the nub. I'm going to be burning myself here soon, which I enjoy it all the way to the finish. That 9.5 on the pairing, it really does stand well together. And I will encourage people to try this cigar with different spirits that you enjoy, whether it be bourbons, ryes, or other spirits as well. Cocktails. I think this would really pair well with a bolder Manhattan. Yeah, I think it would. Maybe even a rye Manhattan. I think they would have something, something to go with that. Again, bring out a little bit more sweetness or something to it. But I think it's a great pairing, and I think it's a great cigar, and I love the bottle. So Ian and the rest of the guys and Josh for bringing this. This is, you guys hit it out of the park with that. So with that, with part 1, I do want to bring up my mouse again.
And
it's a good 1-2 combo.
If I may, I might be giving a little bit too much information, but you might see this cigar if you're a VIP at the.
Spoiler alert! There are less than 10 VIP tickets available still at Smoking Ten event, which great. You guys are good at segues. I want to thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton. Smoking 10 event number 9, 2022 is going to be coming up on Saturday, March 19th, 2022. There are less than 10 VIP tickets available. There are still general admission tickets available, which there is a not only another great cigar from Altadis at your booth. Yep. But there might be a sampler that you might be able to get your hands on. That's spoiled information cigar. From Josh. So thank you, Tinder Box Easton. Check them out for the Smoking 10 event. This will also be landing on the shelves, I believe, as well here soon. Yep. So and wherever you guys are at listening, I know you guys are across country, worldwide, but check your local brick and mortar for this cigar. And based on the review tonight, I think it's worth a shot there. Altadis USA for this great cigar and the support. Thank you. Behind us, you see you have obviously Aging Room, H. Upmann, Romeo Julieta, and Monte Cristo, among other great brands. I think St. Louis Ray might be represented at the 10 as well. Yep. So thank you for that, Altadis and Josh. And raise a glass real quick. Congratulations to Josh Bentley.
Thank you.
We're going to get into part 2 here. Talk a little bit about why we're congratulating you. Also, BS Cigar Company. Cheers, Travis. And BS Cigar Company Gold and Silver are available. And for you guys, you see us rocking some of the swag on here. Not that one.
Ah, yes. The H. Upmann Heritage
No,
tracksuit.
is that available?
Oh,
Can we get that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that just for the VIP?
Just yes.
Okay.
There is a area within our company available that I'll just throw out there. So.
Oh yeah, that might be able to join the family and get one of those tracksuits.
Close to you guys, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Allegedly. But buyjack.com/bourbonandbs. You can go there. Nate is rocking the new black camo with the Barrelhead logo. I've got the blue Nicaragua BS Cigar Company hoodie. He's got the BS. So that's weird when you do it like that, but he's rocking the new 3/4 sleeves with a BS gold emblem. Also has artwork on the back. We've got the podcast shirts on there. Pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together in 4 colors, including a 5th color right now, which is a green shirt for Patty's Day. $10 of that purchase goes to St. Baldrick's Foundation. So please support them and the podcast. Rock that green shirt. Josh will be rocking it at the Smoking 10 event. And also patreon.com/bourbonandbs podcast, and also Venmo at bourbonandbs. Guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Travis, thanks for taking your time to be with us tonight and share all that wealth of information. I learned a lot tonight. I hope you guys did as well. Josh,
absolutely.
Thank you for joining us.
Yep.
Okay.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great week, guys.
Y'all and everybody that could be listening, going to the event. I look forward to seeing y'all on the 17th.
That's right.
19th. Saturday.
19th. March 19th, Saturday.
Days, numbers, they all match together. I apologize. But yes, that's Saturday. I look forward to coming up there and hanging out with you.
Absolutely. Good to have you. Cheers, guys. Stay tuned for part 2 if you're listening live. If not, if you're listening on the audio, click over to part 2 and we will talk about Begin Again.
Begin Again.
All right.
Cheers.
All right. Intermission. We're still live, Travis, just so you know.
Awesome.
Still
but we are
look at the cigars. I forgot the cigars.
Oh, come on.
I was going to ask, do we have a second cigar?
We do.
I've got one
Travis,
right here.
we're going to be smoking the Eternal.
Ooh. Okay. Well, you guys smoked the Eternal. We're not talking about the cigar, correct? So I'm going to do something of a little longer and skinnier nature.
Lancero, baby.
What is it? Is it Trinidad?
Trinidad Espiritu 2, Lancero. Boom.
Fundador, I believe that's
Fundador.
Fundador. That's a fundador.
Fundador.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Jonathan Herring is a patron, correct?
He is.
Okay. Because he said he was waiting on the code, so I was going to send that to him.
Yeah.
And I will. I might last a little bit, but still got to pack for my trip tomorrow. So.
Where are you headed tomorrow there, Travis, you said?
Kansas.
That sounds.
Our rep out there, Bird Dog and Toto and Dorothy, they might be out there somewhere.
Watch out for, what is it, tornadoes?
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. That's correct. For those listening live, if you are on the Patreon, Jonathan Herring is a Patreon member. So the way that works right now, we're going through some growing pains with Buy Jack. Everything is running smoothly at this point, but if you're a Patreon member and you don't have the code or the website, you do get a discounted rate at buyjack.com for any of the apparel. So you're going to get $5 off pretty much all the apparel other than the charity shirt. And if you need instructions on how to get both. What?
And kudos for your charity of choice.
Yeah, appreciate that. We team up on the Patty's Day weekend. You'll see it when you're here. They do obviously the St. Patrick's Day 10 event for them on the 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day. On Friday, they do some tent stuff as well. And one of them is the St. Baldrick's Foundation event, where not only do people, donate and buy stuff as well, but there are people that they do shave their heads for the charity, try to raise money doing that.
I have done it twice.
Yeah. I don't have the required equipment to do that, so I just try to donate and do my part. We're not doing my face. No.
Respected eyebrows, maybe. I don't know.
So one of my friends, Grant, actually, he shaved his head, and then I think he was a little tipsy at the time, but he did say, "All right, if we raise another, like whatever it was, like $500, I'll shave my eyebrows." And they raised $500. It's a unique look.
And also, since we're still in intermission, don't forget at the Smoking Tent event, you are one of the first 3 people that go up to Josh and mention that you saw him on the Bourbon and BS podcast with the Monte Cristo Espada signature.
What are you going to do for that?
The first 3 people will get one of the Monte Cristo Espada letter openers.
That's right. All you got to do is say you listen to the podcast. Where's my letter opener?
Yep.
That's right.
So you can open the junk mail with style.
That's right. All right. Romeo y Julieta Eternal.
Yes, sir.
I thought we were going to feature this on an episode once.
Yeah, but now Josh is getting big time on us.
Yeah.
Didn't work out.
Well, you've got a lot of time. It's eternal.
That's right. It's a good point.
Eternal.
But
And if we're not talking about it, we can still feature it.
That's right. I mean, it's a dang good stick. Don't get me wrong.
Travis,
Yeah, it
can you
is.
talk about the blend any bit?
No.
Nope.
You guys out?
That will be an eternal question.
Oh.
If I had access to my computer and I could actually turn over and look that one up, then yeah, I could probably talk about it. But memory is only so,
This is a Plasencia blend,
This is a Plasencia blend.
all
and- hold on.
Nicaraguan. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's got a-
And don't tell me the end of it, or you want to read it.
Go ahead.
But oh yeah, get a pour of that.
Go get a glass.
But this comes in a box of 11 cigars.
Left of the kitchen
It
sink
does.
in the cabinet.
10 of which have the black band, which we have on ours,
Yep.
because you didn't save the special one for us. And one has a gold band on it. You smoked it. Did it taste different?
It did.
It didn't. The gold band signifies and symbolizes the eternal bond between Romeo and Julieta and cigar enthusiasts around the world. I feel like that's not verbatim, but it's kind of in the ballpark.
Let me read it.
Yeah,
Steve.
please do. Yeah.
I like your version. That sounded good.
Thank you.
Especially coming from that voice.
I was gonna say, if you need any voiceover work for any of your your YouTube videos, I got you.
Sean, close the door.
Can you do one for me that says, sorry, this caller is not here right now?
So I have here the
Voicemail
Romeo
box is full.
and Julieta, Romeo and Julieta Eternal, celebrating 145 years of passion for cigars. Romeo y Julieta introduces the Romeo and Julieta Eternal, the exclusive blend made by the famous Plasencia family with luxurious tobaccos from the private reserve in Nicaragua, land of the volcanoes and rich soils. Boasts a stunning caramel-toned wrapper that has been double fermented and aged for 26 months. Fall in love with the precious box of 11 cigars, one of them featuring a golden ring that symbolizes the strong bond between aficionados and Romeo and Julieta, a love that has proven to be eternal.
Ooh.
Poetic,
Well, you
really.
read that well. Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you very
Nice.
much.
Real quick, I want to comment to Travis when he was talking at the end of part 1 about the Heritage possibly being up there on some lists come next year. We thought that a couple years ago with the Upmann 175th.
I was shocked that
Like
did
we
not
thought
get
that
cigar
we
of the
thought
year.
that was going to be like a top 5 cigar, if not number 1 cigar of the year, and we never saw it on a list.
Yeah. Well,
Not true.
no,
Not
it was
true.
10.
Or was it 10 that
It
year?
was.
Okay.
It was 10.
It was 10 the year that
Aficionado.
the aging room
Nicaragua
Quattro
was-
Nicaragua
all right.
got number 1.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah, especially with aficionado, they were running that kind of that recurring theme where it was like the cigar of the year was a limited run. It was it was just tough to. It was like an ode to some certain things.
Yeah.
And it was limited stuff, and so from a buyer standpoint, from a retailer standpoint, and everything like that, it was just really difficult to do that. What are you doing? Timeout or?
No, it you see a certain shape
Yeah.
recurring. that didn't have that. But that's it. Top 10. It was phenomenal, especially using that medio tiempo. I mean, it's
Well, and the story of the Connecticut broadleaf getting basically just decimated by the fermentation process and what went into that cigar. I mean, and the way it was delivered, it was just
Yeah, we talked about that.
You guys still have that available, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's a lights out smoke.
Yeah. We had that on the podcast, Travis, when that debuted. I forget what we drank with that.
I don't recall.
Is that the Willet?
I'd have to look. We'd have to look.
I don't recall.
Yeah. I don't either. Hopefully, it wasn't one of those failed bottles that I brought on.
No, come on. It wasn't from Pittsburgh. All right.
Thank you.
All right, let's roll here. You guys ready?
Yep.
All right.
You got that one.
What do you got there? Oh yeah, right there, 175th.
There it is.
Take care. Thanks for coming by. Yeah. Talk before that. All right.
Thanks, guys.
He was saying thank you to you guys. They say you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the amazing cigar.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 210, Beyond the BS, part 2 here. We've got Josh Bentley still in the garage. We have Travis still with us as well. If you guys have not listened to part 1, definitely click back to that. If you're listening to the audio only, we have the Upmann Nicaragua. This is the Heritage. This is a brand new release from Altadis USA and Upmann. We also were drinking the Nashville Barrel Company. This was a barrel picked that was called Spy versus Rye. And please listen. There's a lot, again, a wealth of information on that first part about not only this cigar, but just tobacco in general, Altadis, the process, who they're working with, how everything works, and just I really enjoyed it. I want to thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. They have a great Smoking 10 event coming up Saturday, March 19th. Josh will be there. Travis will be there. Nate will be there. I'll be there. And probably close to 200 to 300 other friends will be there as well. So we're looking forward to that. Check that out on the Tinder Box Easton social media, on the Facebook, on Instagram, all that good stuff. But we do still have general admission tickets available. VIP, we're down to less than 10 out of the 150 that were available. So don't wait. Make sure you reserve your spot now. Call into the shop or contact them or stop by if you're in the Columbus area. Altadis USA, as well as a sponsor of us for this is the 3rd year going. We appreciate that support from you guys. Josh, I know you work hard every year to get that done, and we appreciate that support. Every week, when Josh isn't on, the second featured cigar is from Altadis, so we appreciate that for part 2 smokes. We have a great selection of those. We try to rotate through over the years at this point.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. BS Cigar Company, gold and silver are available. The gold is through Placencia, as is the cigar that we're smoking in part 2, which is a great treat from Josh Bentley. The silver is made by Espinosa, a little more peppery from that one, both Nicaraguan puros. So we love having that sponsorship from BS Cigar Company. And real quick, you guys as well, patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. You guys can do a monthly type of contribution to the show. If you want to do a one-time donation or contribution, do Venmo at Bourbon and BS, and we can buy a bottle. Tell us what you want us to buy if we can get our hands on it, or if you just want to buy a propane heater for the winter months, that always helps as well. You guys are keeping this thing going also to get this out to you. And then buyjack.com/bourbon and BS. I know a lot of people just got their shipments. We had a little bit of delay on design issues, printing issues on the first real batch of some of the new stuff, like what Nate is wearing, the Bourbon and BS Barrelhead camo, black camo hoodie, along with 3/4 sleeves that are out there in multiple colors. We have the podcast shirt. We also have the podcast shirt in green, which is going to be a St. Patrick's Day Kelly green, which is going to go $10 from that will go towards St. Baldrick's Foundation. So thank you guys for all the support. And if you guys get your stuff and take a picture, post it on social media, tag the podcast, and make sure that we'll get it out there and show it off for you guys as well. So we appreciate that support. We go beyond the BS in part 2. And Travis, I don't know how familiar you are with this podcast, but this is where it kind of takes a little bit of a left turn, and we kind of enjoy kind of in the realm of when you're hanging out at a cigar shop or you're hanging out with some friends and you're sipping on a bottle. Towards the end of the night, you start talking about life. And tonight we're going to be talking about begin again. And the way I kind of described this, and if I could introduce what brought this on in my mind, is that Josh Bentley surprised us recently with a great news that he is getting a promotion. If you want to tell them about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. So I had the opportunity and was afforded the opportunity and gladly accepted a role with Altadis as key accounts manager. So I moved this week from a territory manager into a key accounts manager role with Altadis. So after about a decade in the industry and being in this in and out of this territory, I say farewell to a lot of friends, but just a temporary
Goodbye
farewell.
for now.
Goodbye for
See
now.
you soon.
That's right. And gladly take on a new role with Altadis.
So that brought on the life topic. We have a congratulations from Ray. We've got congratulations from Lou. We've got some congratulations flowing in here from the comments. So a lot of love out there for Josh Bentley. But with that being said, we're talking about new opportunities, starting over, building on progress, and more. What does it look like for you in the past when you begin again? And do you seek this in the future? So this is something that with the career opportunities, this is not something like we've talked about on the podcast, and we can talk about it a little bit, but there are times in your career that you either leave an organization, whether it's your choice or it's a choice kind of dealt onto you. Relationships kind of the same way. But a lot of times I think begin again, sometimes I look at it too with the current climate of the world and stuff, is that we've been opening back up for months now. You know what I mean? And again, we have another phase coming through with, at least in the United States and other countries right now, we have, the mask mandates are starting to fall off. We're starting to get people, like, almost in a sense forcing people back out of their 2020 COVID roles and their lifestyles. This is a great opportunity to also talk about, just when things have kind of been outside factors have kind of hold you up or held you into a point of questioning your day-to-day routines. Now you have an opportunity to begin again. Do you capitalize on that? When you join the gym again for the first time, how hard do you go? But with this type of situation, it doesn't have to be a start and finish and start, or start and stop and start again. You're doing it from a point where it's like you're growing from experiences with your previous positions, not only in this industry, Josh, but you're now also getting into a new role with the same company, similar role, but now have a different kind of vantage point or focus with that. So, I mean, how does that really work with you going into this? I mean, this is a great stepping stone into this, is that, same thing with the cigars. We smoked a great cigar tonight. Every time you start a new blend type of a thing, when you guys are working on this, you have to begin all over again, kind of what have you done for me lately type of a thing. So,
Yeah.
That's kind of how I wanted to kind of intro this, kind of all encompassing career, specifically highlight, what Josh is going through right now. And there's got to be excitement and other emotions flowing through there. So talk to us about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. It's a lot of anticipation, excitement, as you said, Steve. Stepping into a new role. There are a lot of parallels and similarities to the role that I previously had. But some anticipation along with that excitement for what's to come and the quote unquote unknown, right? And the mindset, I think, has a big part to do with transitioning from role to role. I've always looked through the scope of leadership, in any role that I've had, in any opportunity that afforded me, I look through a lens of leadership. And in that, how can I add value, right? If I'm not adding value in the position that I'm in, why is that? And what can I do to add value to not only the role, but, to my future. And so, as you said, a lot of excitement. anticipatory future and what's to come. Looking forward to it. Very positive.
Great opportunity, for you, obviously, and this is kind of the plan. Obviously, when you get into, especially a company like Altadis, there's opportunity for growth.
Yeah,
that's I think a lot of that mentality there is that, again, begin again as the topic tonight. It's not always when you get knocked down, you have to get back up type of mentality. But this is something that, again, when you've had success, especially in sales that you've been in, I mean, that's one of those things, whether it's a quarterly thing, an annual thing, you're up against your own numbers constantly.
Yeah.
So to have that mentality of the excitement when you have the opportunity to get better, it isn't always resting on your laurels. They're like, I've done all this for this company, for this relationship, for myself. You have to consistently. I like the topic title of Begin Again. I mean, this is a daily thing.
Yeah,
it really can be a daily thing.
Especially when it comes to a sales role, right?
Yeah.
Because as you said, you're looking to anniversary what you've done. You're going up in essence against yourself, right? And you have to perform against yourself and what you've been able to produce in the past. What accolades you have. Those are great, but those are behind you. And it's kind of a what have you done for me lately, kind of thing. But hey, let's not forget the past. And so, the mindset that I have and that I've always tried to envelop is, going on for those accolades and what I've had, not forget about them, but build on them and use those to my success. In order to produce success again. And I think that's what's, made me so, for lack of better term, successful.
No, I mean, that's absolutely right. Travis, you were talking about, that tomorrow you have to travel to Kansas, not Kansas City, but Kansas. And then after that is where?
Back here, I'm at the office for a few days. Then I'm heading up to you guys.
Okay. But every time your role for those that didn't listen to part one, because we do have some listeners that listen mostly to part two, but I mean, your role is national education. Is that the title, or is that basically the description?
Yeah, the national education manager, which I'm a skilled professional from growing in the horticulture side of life within the plant, all the way up through the full process to where does it go on the shelf? What does the mind do as a buying pattern? And I train and teach both retail staff, consumer events, pairings, chocolate pairings. I mean, wine, bourbon, scotches. I mean, you name it, I can pair a cigar with it to just a primrose path story of a brand or what a cigar does from beginning to end. And I'm really a paid storyteller with the love of tobacco.
Yeah. Well, I look at that though, again, with this, we can get to that point where you have that, stop and then start again type of thing. But I think this is something I want to keep on the kind of the light of this, is that even with you, Travis, is, you have to go to a new area. You have a new blend that you have to educate people on. You have a new farm that you guys are dealing with, new type of tobacco you're dealing with. But this is something that in a lot of careers, the state of being stagnant comes a lot of times when you don't have that continuing education. And I think that obviously in your role too, Josh and Nate and a lot of people out there, is that continuing education, it has that essence where it's like, all right, I know what I'm talking about. I know everything that I've been able to, like for you, Travis, I know all the blends I need to educate. I know how I need to educate. Oh, I've got this new account I'm going to. I have this new blend that I have to basically essentially begin again. And like, all right, so where's this cigar coming from? Like, what's the story behind this marketing? Why are we doing this? What does this pair with?
It kind of runs into, are we really becoming stagnant, or are we just not stimulated that part of our mind to say, this is what I like doing, or this is what I enjoy within that realm of calling it new? or is it a new invigorance or a new passion for what you had before?
Yeah.
Or is sometimes, like you say, a career change. I'm getting out of farming and going into tobacco sales, or am I, complete 180 shift? But it's the mind, and I think as human beings, at least coming from me, not as a professional, just a guy.
Yeah.
We need that stimulus of challenging ourselves and saying, I want to do a little better, because as human nature, we all want to please. We all want to, really make yourself better, make other people better. And you can't do that by just doing the same thing over and over. You got to have that little bit to revigorate and really begin again. Right.
Well, and so what I'll say, going off of Steve, what you said, the stagnation, and my mindset, right? The word that I used before, my mindset isn't starting anew or starting afresh, rather transitioning, right? You're transitioning yourself into a new role. You're transitioning yourself into a new year. You're transitioning yourself into a new beginning, right? And you have full power to dictate, what direction you're going to go into, right? How you're going to not only start, but where you want to be to finish.
Yeah. But you have to take the first step.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm kind of, again, we can always address the other side of it, but I do like what you're saying, Travis and Josh, and Nate, I want to hear from you as well with this, is that begin again. I really think these are shorter timelines, because to your point, Travis, when you were talking about the fact that, you get stagnant, or you get to that point where it's like, do I really want to do this? It's just kind of the same thing over and over again. There are those moments that, it's either you wake up in the morning, and it's not always, I admire people that say that they wake up every day just ready to tackle the day. I think it's a little bit of bullshit in there. They're going to have bad mornings as well. But I mean, there's a extreme where it's like, I am excited about the next challenge, whether it just be doing my best of what I do, treating my family, my significant other, whatever it might be, going into the job and killing it, setting your own goals. Or you look at the other side of it when you have let yourself not be stimulated or seek that out. You literally wake up in the morning, you look at the mirror, and you literally like, here we go again, or not again. Like, I mean, at that point, that's the other side of beginning. And like, you got to get yourself out of that and get back up and try to either change careers or change your everyday life of who's around you, your social circle, your occupation, whatever it might be. But I think on those shorter timelines, if you have that mentality of you wake up or if you have a bad meeting, a bad sales call, or whatever it is, that's that. All right, like psych yourself up, like get that stimulus. What do I need to get to this point where I can actually get a fresh start again and begin and just kill the next one? Or it's been a bad day, I'm not going to let that affect my next day. I got to get back up tomorrow. I'm going to do what's in my power, not the outside threats or opportunities that are going to be outside of your control, but something that you can actually do within your own strengths and weaknesses to a point that you can actually attack and win that day.
Mm-hmm.
Nate, you're listening.
I am. No,
I can see the wheels turning.
Well, no, the conversation kind of reminds me. So just 2 weeks ago, we had Josh on, and we talked about when enough is enough. And Josh had alluded to his first role in the cigar industry, and he had goals that he wanted to accomplish after so many years in that role. And when that didn't happen, there was another opportunity. And so he made a change, and then eventually it led him back into the industry. And now, how many years you've been with Altadis?
4 this June.
And then, so now after less than 4 years, now you're getting that change that you had looked for from years past. And that's only come in the last 2 weeks since we last talked to you. So it's kind of funny to see that build off of the previous conversation that we had with you. But I think, with career, I'm one of those people, and I've talked about it in the past, where like, if I get a role that I really enjoy, I don't mind if I'm at that position for, so many years. eventually there comes a time where I do want more. And that's why last year I made a change within the company I work for to take on another role. Part of it was the challenge because of, the setbacks that department was having, and also the opportunities that being in the department I'm in now could afford me to make upward transitions that my previous role didn't necessarily offer me. But then just in the short time that I've been in that role, there have been some setbacks, some things that haven't gone quite the way I wish they would have, to where it's started to trigger that wanting more again. And, whether that be internal or external with the company, I went from being such a, what I should say, a key part of a team where part of the work I was doing was 30% of all the work on our team, to where now I don't feel like I have quite that responsibility. And because of my work ethic and always wanting to do what I can for the benefit of my position and my team, my employer, because that hasn't happened, I've started to look elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to give me the opportunity? I don't, there are some people, and I think it's a generational thing as well. There are some people that don't mind staying with the same company for 20, 30 years.
Yep.
I don't think, those types of people are out there as much as they used to be. My dad worked for the same company for 34 years. My mom worked for the same company for 20 plus years, before they retired or companies got sold. I would love to work for a company for that long if I felt like what I was doing was not only important, but afforded me the opportunity to do the best at what I do. And I'm one of those people that if the opportunity I have in front of me is not affording me the chance to do the best at what I'm good at, I'll find someone who will give me that opportunity. Yeah. Even though I'm very loyal to the people I work for, there's only so much before I feel stagnant. And sometimes you have to bring that up to that other party. Sometimes it happens in career. Sometimes it happens in personal relationships. If you think that relationship is stagnant, you can't just react all on your own, because if that other person, that other party doesn't know that there's an issue, then they don't know that maybe there's something they can do on their side to make it more beneficial for you as well. And since I've started that process, there have been some things that have happened where I've been a little bit more okay with what I'm doing, but then there have been some other days where certain things will happen where I'm like, this is why I'm looking elsewhere. I mean, I can literally go from 1 week where, hey, okay, I'm satisfied with where I am. I'm not happy, but I'm not mad about where I am, but like I'm satisfied with it. And then there are days like some this week where I've been like, yeah, I don't like this. Like I want to do more. I can do better. And who's going to give me the chance to do better? I mean,
is the grass always greener on the other side? That's
sometimes the grass is greener on the other side because it's fertilized with bullshit.
Amazing. Yes.
Thanks.
So Steve, I want to go off of something that you said, because you had talked about, some failures, right? And, being able to get up and begin again, right?
Yeah.
From those failures. And I was listening to a leadership podcast, and it was talking about professional athletes. You have these team sports, right? That we're very familiar with football and baseball and basketball, where you can go out and you can lose as a team, right? And then you have to get back out and do that again the next week. But this particular podcast individualized tennis, which some people are familiar with, some people aren't. But at a professional tennis level, These are individuals going out there and performing, and 90 to 99% of them are losing on a weekly basis, and then having to get out there the next week or the following week and do it again. And this coming from a professional was just astounded and never took the time and was never presented that way. That, man, could you imagine being in business or being in sales and going out each week and failing, and then having to get up the next week and do it all over again?
Yes, I can.
And I mean, that gave kind of a new perspective, to me, and just put it in a different frame of reference, really.
How so? Like, what's the mindset there?
For me personally?
No, what I mean, like when you dial into like that mindset, and what did you take from it? Like how do they do that? Why are they doing that? Let's start with that surface level. Why would they be doing that as a tennis player, professional tennis player, that is consistently losing?
Yeah, well, I mean, the level to which they're playing at, is just incredible, and a lot of the lower level, right? I mean, you can have the title of professional athlete, right, as a tennis player, and be in the top, let's say 200 in the world, and still not be known, right? Because you're overshadowed by the Roger Federer,
top 5 guys,
right? the Rafael Nadals, the Novak Djokovic's, who have went out and outperformed for now decades, right? Of just winning, the top tier, and just going out there and just absolutely slaying the competition. And you have these guys who are making a living doing this, are in the top 200 in the world, which is super respectable, but literally go out there and lose week after week, and have to go out there and pick up a racket and practice, right, during the short off season, and go out there and practice after they have just lost 5 weeks in a row, right? And at some point there are different levels. So at any given week, they're playing 5 days a week, right? So you might win 4 times and get to the semifinals, and then lose in the semifinals or lose in the finals, right? And so in essence, you've lost, even though you've gained, right? And you might go up in your ranking, you've gained monetarily, but you've still lost because you did not win that particular tournament.
So how does that equate to your mindset?
So it equates to my mindset, I as a professional, that hey, listen, I'm not losing every week, right? I mean, that's a benefit. There are people that are going out there, but it just makes my mindset as a professional and as a salesman, that much stronger. I have the ability to go out there to be able to get a no, or to be faced with challenges, right, that I know are going to come my way. But how do I manage that challenge? How can I manage a deficit or a loss and come out in the end with a win? And so, that's the mindset. And as I said at the beginning of this conversation, I focus everything that I try and do through a leadership mindset, right? And I have a certain consciousness that I've talked about before on this podcast, where, a great book, a leadership book that I am still going through a second and a third time, which is conscientious leadership, right? That you're either leading from above this binary line, or you're leading from below the binary line, right? And leading from below means that you're not giving it everything that you can, but not only you're not giving it everything that you can, that you're not encompassing and you're not affording all of the opportunities. And therefore, because you're not doing that, your outputs are lesser than those who are leading from above the line.
I like that. That's very impactful. I like that mentality. As I was listening to you, talk about tennis, for example, and I look at this from a corporate standpoint, right? So if everyone goes into, after high school or whatever it might be, right? You go into the mindset you want to be the top person. You have some things you can do. Obviously, the entrepreneurship has been not only celebrated but also overplayed a bit in the social media world. But I mean, there is that mentality that you want to be the top person. If you don't get it through that organization, then you leave it and you just quit, right? I look at it the same way. Some of these tennis players, you have some of the elites. Like I look at like the Federer, I look at the Nadal. I look at these people as like almost like CEOs. These are the top people, right?
Yep.
They have established themselves and they have a lifespan, but they've established themselves as the top people. The building blocks, who's Federer going to play to be that top person? People that he might be able to be better than or win against. But the people you're talking about, they play like 5 times a week, as long as they're doing that mentality that they go in there. It's that age-old thing with like a corporate type of thing. Not everyone has the capacity, has the tool belt to be the best, be the CEO, be the president, be all this stuff. But there are positions in that organization that you can be very successful at. You do have to have a little bit of a tolerance or almost an acceptance, not necessarily dwindling your drive or anything like that. You still want to get to that level, but you do have to accept that not everyone, yourself included, may not be the CEO of a company. You may not be Cigar World. You may not be the master blender, but you might be working in the factory, but you strive to get those steps up. You try to get higher in those rankings. Like you just got that promotion. Who knows? Someday Josh Bentley might be the top dog at Altadis or another company, right?
Well,
you
see,
might,
I can't relate to what you're saying, and what I mean by that is I don't have that mindset where I might never be in that position or I can't be in that position.
I didn't say that you have to accept that to a point. You have to accept. I understand your mentality. What I'm saying is that you want to be in whatever position you're in, whatever ranking you're in, you want to do the best you can do.
Yeah.
So that is it. I'm not saying you accept failure, or if you want to be the CEO of the top position or the top ranked tennis player, win that whatever open. You don't want
Grand
to
Slam.
win. You want to win Wimbledon or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can have big wins along the way.
Yeah.
You can be I think the age old thing is that if you want to, like, there are janitors. You want to be the best janitor that you can be. And if there's a supervisor role, then if you're doing the best you can do every day, you go in there and you give your best, you strive to do the best at what your occupation or what your role is. That's when the opportunities for further success can come.
Yeah.
I was saying self-realization on the athlete side of it, if you're talking about that more directly or not as a metaphor. It's like, yeah, you may not be the best tennis player in the world, but being a professional tennis player, that is your occupation. You get to live your dream. Not everyone's going to be Michael Jordan, but you can also be you can have a very successful career doing what you love, and you can be good at it. The self-realization I'm saying is not in a pessimistic way. Is that, you know what? Like, I'm better at doing this. I'm a better sales is a big one. I'm a better salesperson than a sales manager. In my previous career, I saw that all the time, is that it was like a lot of they plenty of books about it. A lot of the best salespeople make the worst sales managers because they don't have that leadership mentality. That's one thing that I'll parallel to you. You have the mentality of leadership. So not only are you going to say, I do things the best way, I try to adapt to the people around me, that how I can get better working with these other individuals. And if I get in that position, I want to listen to them as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are capacities, tool belts that you have that you
can make them better as a team.
Right.
Well, I had one of the sales reps that I used to work with in my previous position. He never really wanted to be that guy that was getting the $1 million deals or even like some of the sales reps, like the $20 and $30 million deals that were, 10-year projects and all this other stuff that went with them. He was just fine, just doing all the small deals because he did he got more deals won than anyone else in the company. But on the flip side of that, he also had more losses than anyone else in the company. And he was okay with that because he knew it was a numbers game as a sales rep.
Yeah.
In this particular industry, so the numbers that we did together in the last few years, 30% of all the customers that we tried to win were customers that he was trying to work. And we had a 27% win rate from those. So even though he's doing the most deals, he's also losing the most because he's losing 73% of the deals that he's trying to win. But he also he's fine with that. I don't know why the door's still open. But he's okay with that because he knows that every little bit is going to get him to where he wants to be at the end of the year.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, what is his goal? He wants to have hit plan. He wants to hit the numbers that leadership put in front of him. And by doing that year after year, it's, shown that he is a vital part of the company. He's a stable person of the company. He's not one of those people because, just in, the 5+ years I was in that role, we saw sales reps come and go. Steve, you talked about it with your previous career in the moving industry.
Yeah.
You saw those people that every couple of years they're going to another sales role. He's just fine with getting all the little wins as long as he hits what he feels is his personal goal. Sometimes his goal personally is higher than what the leaders set for him because he knows what he wants to do. But he's able to appreciate the losses because he also has those wins. And when you guys are talking about professional sports, when we talk about athletes, we're talking about the top, less than 1% of athletes playing that game that are in that professional level. And then when you talk about the people that are constantly going out and winning, the people that you mentioned in tennis, Michael Jordan in basketball, someone brought up Tom Brady for football. Well, now you're talking about the top 1% of the top less than 1%. I mean, there's a whole nother level there. But like, even in baseball, there's a lot of baseball players that are not going to go out and bat 300 for the season. They're not going to hit 50 home runs. They're not going to, steal 40 bases and have 100 RBIs. But why are they in the league? Because they're still one of the best players at what they do. They also realize that they are just a cog in the machine that is part of a team. And so they're
play their role.
They're trying to do the best they can in order to benefit the team, because that team is going to have those superstars that get all the notoriety, all the fame, all the articles written about them. They're the ones that are going to set records, but they can't do what they do if there aren't other people on the field with them that are providing the opportunity for them to be so successful.
But so what I will say with, the example that you use for the gentleman in your company and on your team, and the goals, right, that you stated, it was not the goals that made him successful. It was the process that made him successful.
Key point right there.
And that's in any mindset or outlook. It's the processes that you set in place that are what is going to make you successful. The habits that you form along that process, right? You set the goals, but it's the process that gets you to those goals, right? And so, in any facet, in sales, in professional athletes, right? I set goals, right, on a yearly basis, on a quarterly basis, on a daily basis. But it's the process that I set out that in the end makes me successful. Right. And I owe it to that process and the habits that I've created that make me successful. And so that's where, I think that the success that you find in this begin again, right, or the mindset that you have, it's all going back and equates to, well, what's the process that got you there?
You're absolutely right. I think if you're too focused on the finish line in your mind, if that's what I was saying about the shorter time spans, that's a big part of it. Is if all you're looking at is I want to be number one in tennis, I want to be the CEO, I want to do this. I wouldn't say if you want to accept defeat to a point and you just want to like stay in that position the rest of your life, there's nothing wrong with that for certain people. I will say that if that's where you want to be, and you pay the bills, you're happy with your day-to-day life, fucking do it. Just stay on point, right?
World needs ditch diggers too.
They do, but you want to do the best you can. It's got to be, and it's tough to quantify happiness, right? But I mean, it is something that if you wake up and you're not looking in the mirror and saying, "Oh shit, not again. Here we go again." Like, that's a problem. If all you're doing is focusing on the next big thing or the finish line, that will take precedent over the begin again, the new start, constantly challenging yourself. That was what I wanted to really kind of focus on with that. And I'm glad you really, Josh, you hit it on the head there, is that you really do need to focus on the process.
And I don't want to interrupt you. There's it's a series out there, and I don't know what the series on Netflix is called, but I think it's around athletes. And one particular episode in this, if any listeners out there know what I'm talking about, please comment. On Netflix, it talks about Marty Fish, and this is going back to tennis. And he was an American tennis player that was incredible, but failed. And he goes over and when I say failed, he didn't make it to his goal. And he had some setbacks. There was a lot of mental and physical setbacks that he endured in the first part of his career, which sidelined him. And he was out of it for a season or maybe 2 seasons. But then after 2 seasons, he set a goal for himself to make it to the end of the year tournament, which to be in this end of the year finals, you have to finish, I believe, in the top 10 in the world.
Okay.
And so that was his goal. And it talks about his process, which got him to his goal. And he ended up succeeding, right, and achieving his goal of getting to the NITO finals, I believe, in London at the time. And it's an incredible episode to go back and watch, what this guy went through. But it solidifies my comments in talking about the process and how hard the process was for him to get there and what he gave up to be successful in his own mind and his own right.
Is that it? No, wait.
Untold breaking point.
There it is. Thanks.
Right.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah.
Travis, we still have you on
it.
here. And I mean,
yeah. And
no, I'm just
transition.
saying, like, no, I mean, I actually, I'm kind of looking up at the screen and I see him, at times he's like doing this, like spot on type, points and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's your feedback on that or your take on some of this stuff? I mean, you seem to be a good listener on this. And I mean, for those listening on the audio, he's been a part of this, but it's cool to kind of see that.
Maybe if you can envelop some of your story, Travis, and the transition that you've had in this industry and with Altadis. Well,
my story, I can relate with everything you're saying, Jonathan, because Josh, you've got that A personality sales mindset. You set your goals, you work your plan, and it's basically, what little steps do I got to do to get to my ultimate goal for me? And not a lot of people can do that, especially with the youth coming up today. they're ingrained with everyone is going to be the most successful CEO, superstar, Twitter, Instagram, influencer out there. At some point, I'm older than all y'all, but it took me into my 40s till I finally realized it's about me. I don't want to be, I'm not going to strive to be the CEO of Altadis USA per se. That's not my joy in life and happiness. For me, it took the leaving a butler's job at the Rio Suites Hotel in Vegas, master sommelier, leaving those positions and going into food service because I wanted to spend time with my family. Okay, I still wanted to do best, be the best I could be the top of whatever it was. Own my own restaurant. I wanted more. I wanted to become better at that. I want to be the best, the top of anything. Till one day I got into the sales job and I kept hitting my numbers and kept hitting it in like you, Josh. I mean, you're in sales. We hit our numbers and I kept hitting them over and over and over and over again. Well, I wanted to move up in the company, and this opportunity came about to become an educator, someone who taught about something I was passionate about. Now, I was passionate at one time in my life, and I wanted to, when I first got out of high school, I went into automotive technology. I became a mechanic, if you will. Graduated Toyota T10 school, a factory training school. I worked for Toyota, worked for Lexus, worked for Infiniti. And I finally just came to the understanding that, you know what? I need a new beginning, if you will. I was always enjoyed cars ever since I was a little kid. Loved tearing them apart, putting them together, building cars. And I finally said, you know what? The enjoyment of my life was being sucked out of me when it come to doing it as a profession. Mm-hmm. Well, my passion for tobacco and cigars happened in 1994. I think it was 95. And I heard this little story of what tobacco was, the passion that goes into them. Well, that led me down my path of loving the tobacco, cigars, and the people we get to hang out with on a daily basis. Then I was asked one day, because I was selling food for a food service company, and I you always do my ending close, putting all my orders in for the next day to be punched in a cigar shop. I'd hang out in a cigar shop, punch my orders, and do my job till I got to meet all the reps that were in the industry. And one day, one of them says, Travis, you ever thought about being a salesman for a tobacco company? I says, no, not really. He said, well, if we're given the opportunity, would you try it? And at that moment, it was about 3 seconds of clarity where it took me to say, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I says, I'm going to try it. I can always go back to food service, but I'm going to try something. And I tried it, and I have loved every minute of it. Now, it took me 3 seconds because I was nervous from what happened in my automotive career. I didn't want my passion and my love for the tobacco and the cigars to turn into this, I got to do it for a living. No, 14 years in with this company, 16 years total in the tobacco business, I still love doing this. I can't wait to get up. I mean, you can hear in my voice that I'm passionate about this. And I get to spread this love. Well, in sales, I get to do that, but you got all those no's, right? You got to get, 14 no's or 11 no's before you get that one yes?
It's a numbers game.
Yeah, it is really a numbers game. But it's that taking that win as a win and those losses as a learning curve on how you can do better later. But I was given a blind opportunity to begin again by saying, we have an opportunity. And seeing the passion with what you have in tobacco, have you ever thought about teaching in front of crowds or just talking about what you love? And I went, you know what? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I jumped on it, and I have just been loving it. Well, that was my thought was sometimes there are times you don't realize. So there you go.
Ray commented that before Travis even said it.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained, no true words spoken.
You sometimes have to take that blind leap of faith. That if you believe in yourself and you believe in your abilities, to take that step. Is it sometimes not the right thing? I mean, if you're an actuary and you want to go into working at McDonald's and you need that career path, it might not be the right decision, best for your family. But if you're an actuary and you like numbers, but maybe there's something else outside that actuary, but that still plays in the numbers world, then yes, that would be an opportunity to do that. You don't know. Try it. I was given that, and in my 40s, I realized I don't need to be a CEO. I lost that strive to be the CEO because I am the best gabber of tobacco and telling those stories of what the passion is that I have, that this is what I was meant to do. This is what I love doing. Now, within our company, what I want to do more, I don't know at this point.
Yeah.
Because there are things that aren't even out there that they didn't have a position like me. There's no one else in the industry that really does dedicating to what I do. Did I know this was out there? No. But I had that opportunity, and I took that leap of faith and said, let's do it.
Well,
So I kind of wrote everything right there, going yes, and no, yeah, right on the nose. And it was like, these guys are talking my language. I mean, because I've lived it at this point.
Travis, you're obviously by trade now a professional speaker. I mean, that's what you do, right? How many times have you told that story publicly?
Never.
That's the passion. I kind of thought that. This was not a loaded question, but it was kind of a loaded question because I kind of was listening to you and watching the way you were delivering that. You have obviously you're trained and you've studied to be a public speaker, and it comes somewhat maybe forced naturally at this point to speak in front of people and educating, but hearing that whole story about from the food industry and doing all these things, that these other accomplishments that led him to this point, that's a story that you can incorporate some of that into maybe some of your presentations with Altadis, even, because that's where people always buy from people they like. That's not only like sales, that is, they buy into what you're saying. What I just heard from you, I was listening to all you guys talking, and then when Travis started speaking and he was telling this story, I was watching his mannerisms, and it didn't feel like it was a scripted thing. But because you do this every day and you talk to people and in front of people, it comes across as like that was smooth in delivery to a point, but it came from a more natural place. So Josh, continue what you're going to say. But I do want to point it out to people is that when you actually think about all that stuff, that is years of buildup of and self-realization, self-assessment to doing this, where, like, again, the topic begin again is something that you have learned over and over again just through life and experiences, that when you finally say it out loud, there's so much passion behind it, and it makes so much sense because it's not this calculated delivery, but it's literally calculated through experience, that there is so much credibility behind what you just said.
That's exactly right. Truer words couldn't be spoken from Steve. And I'll go on to say, and I commend you, Travis, because the passion that Steve talked about you speaking about is evident when you get to hear Travis talking to a group of retailers, and that passion is evident in cigar training. What Travis has helped curate and has created in our in the industry and in our company specifically, with the Unwrapped tours in Connecticut. Steve, that you got to go on, he took it to another level.
That was before you were, I think, in charge of that. Ollie was running that tour that time.
And I've been able to step that up just a notch.
All right, I got to go back to
my food service background, but yeah.
And maybe the next rep will invite us out there.
When we can have them again.
That was pretty incredible. What he has curated in the Know Your Rapper series, was pretty awesome. It was, I think, in 2019 when I was afforded the ability to go to Connecticut, and I got to see a little presentation of what a prototype of that was. And I, went back to Travis and said, "Hey, this is awesome. This is not being done. There are certain aspects of our industry that take the wrapper and do a little presentation, but what he has created which is a sampler that has how many wrappers, Travis?
7.
Seven different
You've told me
wrappers,
about it,
right? And comes. I mean, it's truly unbelievable. So I just wanted to commend you and just honor you by saying that passion is evident, and there's so much more opportunity that you're going to be afforded and that's out there in our industry. So hats off to you, Travis.
Thank you. And like I said, my computer is telling me, hey, your battery's about dead. So if I drop off, that's why. But for everyone that's listening, just don't forget, not everybody's meant to be a CEO, and not everybody's meant to be these grandeurs of what we see on TV and social media. Sometimes your life is really afforded. I'm the happiest doing this, and I can afford to do the simpler things that I like in life by doing just that's what it is. I mean, to be an educator in tobacco business isn't making 6 figures. It's not making 7 figures. It's not, we're not afforded that, but I'm happiest I've ever been. So it all comes down to that. And those little wins, don't forget the little wins. I always believed in look at the little wins. Don't look at the losses.
Yeah.
Losses are just challenges on how you can get better.
Yeah, I think that some of that too with what you're saying is like it's not always about income, but if there's things that you want to do to supplement your life, you want to take more trips, you want to do some things. Again, don't just be focused. To me, it's not about focusing on I want a bigger house. As you grow up, it's like keeping up with the Joneses. Don't try to get the bigger house, the nicer car. Those can be some driving points to you, but that's not the end all be all. It's truly, you talk to anyone that has achieved that through hard work. It's through that process. Yes, maybe they have as a kid, they have the posters of the nice cars or the girls or the guys, up on their walls. Like, this is what I want to be when I grow up. As you grow up, it's all right. I do want that. That would be nice. When you hear someone say, well, it must be nice. It's like, well, if you want that stuff, you can tweak some things to get closer to that income level, the financial ways of getting to those points. You know what I mean? It's not about getting like, I get a bigger line of credit, so now I can afford some of these things and be further in debt. I mean, there are some stepping stones that you can get to these points where you realize that, do I really want a Ferrari? That would be nice. But I have a nice car that I really like, that I love. I have a nice car or a nice house. I have, I have a woman that I love. I have a man that I love. I have this family that I love. I have this job that I love going to.
So the topic that we're talking about, I was reminded of a story. Okay, and bear with me because many of you might have heard of this, but
Josh, real quick, because I know I'm going to die here in a second. To go off what you just said, begin again. For me, just that one statement alone, that's morning. Because I wake up and I'm going to start over, and I'm not the easiest to get up. And it's Metallica 1 to wake me up in the morning. But I say I start my day right around 3. So sometimes it takes a little longer, but you do begin again if you're opportune to it. So
I like that.
Josh, I know I'll probably drop off. So guys, thank you very much for having me on. Josh, we'll see you in a couple. And we'll see all you guys in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Travis, come check them out at the Smoking Tent event in Columbus, Ohio, March 19th, Saturday, March 19th. Thank you very much for being a part of the podcast tonight. I know you're a busy guy, so we appreciate you taking the extra time out of your schedule for this.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
We'll see you soon. So going along, because I mean that was even a more perfect transition into what Travis was going on of what you were going off of, Steve. This this story of a successful businessman travels from the United States to a remote island for a vacation.
This is a story.
This is a story.
All right.
And so this successful businessman from corporate America goes to a remote island and goes on a fishing expedition. And on this fishing expedition, he's talking with the guy who's taking him fishing, and they're catching fish, and this corporate guy is talking to this guide, and he says, hey, what's your typical day? And the guy says, well, I wake up in the morning, I kiss my wife goodbye, I go out and I fish, and then I come back and have a siesta with my wife. And then I get to go back out and fish again, and then go back in and have a great dinner with my family, and then get up and do it all again. And the guy from corporate America says, well, man, this could be a super successful venture.
Mhm.
And the guy says, the guide, he says, tell me more. And he says, yeah, you would be able to multiply this by adding a couple of boats to your fleet. And he said, oh yeah, he said, and then what? He said, and then you would be able to commercially fish and bring the fish back and sell. And the guide is very intrigued and says, oh yeah, and then what? He said, and then you'd be able to build your fleet even more, and you would be able to catch more fish to bring them back to sell them, and start making a profit. And the guide says, oh yeah, and then what? He's getting more intrigued. And the guy says, then after it gets so big, then you'll be able to manage it, and you won't have to go out fishing anymore.
Yeah.
And the guy says, well, gosh, man, he said, yeah, that sounds great. And then what? He said, and then after you build it big enough, then you'll be able to sell off, the business that you have so successfully built. And the guy says, oh yeah, and then what? And the corporate American says, well, then you'd be able to move to a remote island, and you'd be able to go fishing every day, and then have a siesta with your wife, and then go out fishing more. And the point of the story is it was everything that this guy was doing, right? But because corporate America has this the sense and this build mentality, right? And the guide was happy with his life, right? He was doing what he loved, right?
Mhm.
He didn't have maybe a mansion to come back home to, and many cars and a Ferrari, like you said, Steve, but he enjoyed his life. And that was just a testament to what Travis was talking about, right, Steve, to what you talked about happiness and such. And so some of us, enjoy that. And I mean, that can be a sense of fulfillment and success in getting up and doing what you're passionate about every day.
You're absolutely right. I'm trying to look it up. You're a country fan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Kenny Chesney song,
Okay.
The Life. Same type of thing.
Okay.
Same type of thing. He meets the guy in his island travels. I'm trying to bring it up, and of course, I'm not on Wi-Fi because I want to have a good signal here. Same type of thing. It's like, he's thinking about his Lexus and like, his car loans, his stress and all that stuff, and all he wants to do is live like Jose.
Yep.
Same type of thing. It's like, you work so hard just to get to the point of retirement so that you can finally, if you live that long, you can relax and enjoy your life. I mean, the long-term game is the fact that you have to be able to get to that point. I'm not saying everyone needs to just travel down to an island and hopefully live on a boat that's, a fisher boat and all that stuff. It's not like that luxurious lifestyle, but the mentality is there. I think that is something. I go back to everything you said, really, Josh, and Travis really hit it with his current point in his life, is that you talk to people that are older in age, you'll get different viewpoints. A lot of times I find a very similar message. It's about that very difficult to quantify happiness, that they finally have gotten to that point where they realize what's truly important. They may have been very successful financially and everything, but it's like the same thing. It's what is important to you. That is your driver. But you do go back to, in my opinion, what I was saying, it's the shorter timelines for success. If you're too focused to the far future and you're just focused on the job, or you're just focused on making sure you're healthy, you're just focused on your family life, the other facets of your life will have some shortcomings. It's about how you deal with that. And again, with this topic is, can you begin again when you have that failure, whether it's small or large? But if all your focus, like we're talking about career a lot, I mean, I know so many wealthy people, rich people, maybe not like wealthy, but like they have it too. Prime example, Jeff Bezos. Very public divorce. Like, had everything figured out, all the money in the world, all the success in the world. And then it's like, but your whole like home life is fucked. Like there are shortcomings if you just focus on one thing. This is an all-encompassing begin again daily process of, all right, there is a little bit. I've talked about like if you live your life by a checklist for success of the future, it's more, what's your checklist of your life? Are you being healthy? Are you treating yourself right? Body, nutrition, fitness, and then it's the people around you. Are you treating them right, or are you putting them way back seat? Because all you're focused on, I got to make more money. I got to have a nicer car. I got to do this. I got to have that, all that stuff. So that to your story, Josh, is that you can finally get to that point where you can have that siesta with your wife and enjoy this beautiful weather and enjoy your day to day. There is a constant balance there.
Well, and sometimes, especially with younger generations, we want that kind of success quicker than what some of the previous generations got it. I mean, when my dad was still working for UPS, someone had asked him, this is when he was later on in his career, they had asked him, how much vacation time he gets a year. And he's like, I get 6 weeks. And like, oh, that must be nice. He's like, yeah, well, I just spent 6 years working part-time as a loader in the warehouse. Then I had to drive a truck for this many years before I got to that point. And the person goes, yeah, I don't want to go through all that. And he's like, well, then quit complaining about the fact that I have 6 week vacation. I've put in my sweat equity to get to where I am.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that if you sat there and was like, hey, you want to drive a package truck for 28 years? They'll go, absolutely not. But then it's like, well, do you want to be able to retire when you're in your 50s and then be able to just have a nice house and a truck and play golf and smoke cigars? Like, well, yeah, I want that. Like, okay, this is how he got there. This, like,
it's through hard work and
you don't want to put in the work though.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Some people don't. Some people want the immediate reward or gratification. They want that end success now. They don't want necessarily, want to wait 20, 30 years before that success happens. And, so sometimes, you talk about it, Steve, with the hand in the face.
Yeah.
Some people are looking too far ahead that they don't realize they think the end goal is so hard to get to, but they don't realize that if you just take the little steps that you can eventually get there.
Oh, wait a minute. You're talking about the process.
I was going to.
I am.
Thank you for saying that.
Like
Josh said,
like,
the process.
Like one of the, some people ask me, why I work so much. And, there's someone that my wife loves to listen to. And, one of the things they say is work like no one else now. So that way later on you can work like no one else. And what they mean by that is while you're able to put in the work, put in the effort, work your tail off, be successful at what you're doing now. You don't necessarily have to be the top dog in whatever it is you do, but you're constantly making strides and improving upon yourself. And then later down the road, you can get to the point where you're retired and you don't have to work. You work like you do now. So that way later on, you don't have to work like everyone else. You don't have to be 65 years old and still working in a factory or a day job.
There's also the mentality, though, that a lot of the retired people that I know, they still want to keep busy because they're so ingrained with that. It's like how many people do you know that are consultants or they do a a day job. You know, they retire.
We
They
know a
have
couple
plenty.
of those.
Know a lot of them. I do want to put this, like Ray has a great, and I'm going to say this because it happened to me today. I am like, especially with the Arnold coming in town, I'm not like this, like, you know, bodybuilder guy. I had a guy today. No, listen, I had a guy, girl, and a guy. We get this sometimes at the shop about like, oh, you have to work out to work here or whatever. Literally, the guy said to me today, he's like, so if I smoke more cigars, will I get arms like you? And it's like,
That's not how that works.
and I joke, I'm like, yeah, you smoke more cigars, drink more whiskey, and it's right down the road, man. You know what I mean? It is and I know Sean and Ray are going to comment on that, but it's like one of those things. It's like, no, it's consistency. It's the process. I think, Josh, you hit it on the head. It is absolutely the process. There's sacrifices involved, but you have to balance those. I don't think that you need to just sacrifice everything for one goal, because the people that I know that have done that, the people I've listened to on, like you say, podcasts, the stories, those great success stories do come with a lot of failures and a lot of lost relationships with family, whether it's their family they grew up with or the family that they achieved, but they sacrifice everything. And it's not just one thing. It's not just money. It's not just health. It's not just, you have to find that balance. If I can pull up this, I love this because I hear it all the time. Ray said, here it is. Because Ray's retired, right? And where is it? I'm trying to pull it up on my screen here. But it says, I used to hear, quote, "You're so lucky," end quote. Really? Quote, lucky, end quote. Are you shitting me? Like, this dude worked his ass off. He went through his own trials and tribulations of, you know, his life and has his growth and failures and all that stuff. It's truly one of those things when you see someone that is like, in your mind, they've achieved everything. Ask them, what was the path to that? Because unless they're a trust fund baby, they won the lottery, whatever it might be, that they were just handed money and handed these material things, it's a bitch getting there.
Yep.
And, you know, we started this whole conversation, and Travis, if he's listening out there, love having him on because I loved him, watching him listening. And then he finally, when I was like, hey, say something, very to the point and very
articulate,
very astute on what he has observed in the conversation and in life. That's what you'll get. You have to ask the how, not just the what do you have.
Right.
How did you get there?
Yep.
And I think that with you, Josh, we started this off with, you know, you've got this promotion. This is so positive and exciting and all that stuff. This concept of begin again on a short timeline, whether it be daily, weekly, whatever your goals are, the mindset that got you to this point, I know you personally, you've had these setbacks. So to get to that point where someone's like, oh, I'd like to be a key account manager for the biggest cigar company in the world. And I'm like, yeah, he didn't just graduate high school and then just walk into this role.
Yeah.
He spent time learning the craft, learning what he wanted out of life, failed, stepped away, came back, not knowing what was the future, kept working, kept doing this, standing up for himself. And then now this is just the hope, like, truthfully, the next step of many steps in the career.
Yeah.
All the while, because I'm a big fan of Josh as a person, starting a family, having one daughter, having a second daughter.
Yeah.
And you, in your marriage and family life, same thing. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to have this family and have a nice house and all that stuff? It's like, I'm not going to speak for you, but I can only imagine. It wasn't always fucking easy.
Yeah.
You had your setbacks. You had your drag out fights. You had all this stuff. You're like, it'd be so much easier if I was like, grass is always greener. If I was just doing this on my own, I would be able to do this so much easier.
Yeah.
But all those pros of having that stability, having the love in your life for your family and all that stuff, it all plays into it.
Yeah.
And to see someone get this promotion and that gut reaction of, that would be nice. Ask that person. And I think the begin again topic is really you. It's that process.
Yeah.
So at this point, I would like to start and round out with the closing comments. Josh or Nate? Oh, there you go.
All right.
Last time we're going to see him for a little while he goes through all this stuff.
Yeah.
Until he finds another bottle or a cigar. He's like, hey, I'm coming through Columbus.
So
Clear your schedule.
So a lot of times when people think about beginning again, they think about taking this massive leap, and sometimes making a change is a leap, but you have to make sure Josh and his overnight success that took 10 years. We've talked about that with some of the cigar and whiskey companies too. It's like, oh, you have overnight success. Yeah, it took me 20 fucking years to get here.
Yeah.
But when people talk about taking this leap, one of the things that I've experienced in my life is it's fine to take that leap. You just got to make sure it's not off a cliff. You got to make sure that you have something to catch you if it doesn't work out, because not every beginning that you start, not every journey you start is gonna end up in success, but you need to not let that deter you from taking another chance. And that's something that I've had to learn the hard way in my professional career. But what also helps with taking that leap is having people around you that support you, people who sit there and encourage you that, maybe you can do more than what you're doing. You can do better than what it is you're doing. I'm thankful that I have people in my life that, they want the best for me, and they are very encouraging about me taking that next chance, that next step, even if it's, leaving my comfort zone. Having that support can make that decision a little bit easier. It can also make some of the failures easier to live with as well. Like if you take a chance and it doesn't work out, if you still have those same people that supported you before you took that leap support you after you fell, that's very encouraging for you to get right back up and keep going and maybe down the line try it again. Because I think sometimes if you don't have that support, it can absolutely kill a passion that you might have. You may have your heart set out in doing something, and if no one around you supports you, then you second guess yourself on taking that chance. I talked about it before when I was on my way to interview for a job that I really wanted. A loved one had called me, and I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm on my way, to do this interview. And they said, I hope it goes well, but not too well. And the reason they said that is they didn't think I would actually enjoy that job. Even though it was something I was passionate about, they didn't think I would actually enjoy it. But then when I was in that role and that person saw me in that role and saw the passion and joy I had doing that, it made them come around.
I like that.
And they became much more supportive of me doing that. Even if it worked out or it didn't work out, they were still supportive because they saw how happy it made me.
Yeah.
And I think we've also talked a lot about sports and competition and sales, and I think people always have this desire, like they want to be the top dog. They want to be number one, and they sometimes feel anything less than that is a failure. It's okay not to be the absolute best. That's okay, because if I'm in a role, whether my current company, previous job, future job, if I'm not the best, but it still affords me the lifestyle that I want, puts food on the table, takes care of my family, there's nothing wrong with that. Being the best may provide a little bit more, but there's also a lot more work, a lot more stress that sometimes can come with that. Mm-hmm. And if you can handle that, that's great. But you also got to be content that if you are not the top dog, what are the things that you've still accomplished? Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we overlook what we've accomplished because, we didn't necessarily hit the top goal, the dream that we had. Sometimes as kids, we always have this high, lofty goal when we were younger. And you don't sit there and go, what, when I was 8 years old, I wanted to be an astronaut. Well, guess what? Being an astronaut's a hard fucking job. Not everyone's going to get to do it. Are you going to be okay with not being an astronaut?
Once again, ask those astronauts how they got to that position.
Yeah, if you
military, pilot, like all these steps that went into this shit.
The vomit comment and going through the G-force testing and passing out. Like, hey, you want to do that? Like, no, I don't want to do that.
I just want to be on a spaceship and land on the moon. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do all the work that it takes to get there. It's like, well, then this isn't necessarily the job for you. So, I mean, begin again. We talked about it a couple weeks ago when Josh was on. When's enough? Like, if things aren't going the way you want them to go, it's okay to try something new, and try and do better. Just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons as well.
Yeah.
Josh, go ahead. I love the comments coming in that loyal listeners about this.
I've talked about the process tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Failure is part of the process. Nate, you talked about failure. That's one thing that I didn't mention before. Failure is part of the process. It's part of the mindset of the successful, is that at some point in the process you're going to fail, and that's okay, because it's how you rebound. It's how you get back up, and as the coin phrase, begin again. And I mean, it's really about that. It's about, Nate, what you said, the people that you have around you, right? That coin phrase, the board of directors. My board of directors.
You gotta drink.
And having those people that when you do fail, because you're going to fail at some point, are going to lift you back up, are going to talk you back up, and you're going to be able to begin again, right? Without hiccup, right? Just doing you, being you, having the success that you once had, and to continue on to be successful. And when you have that style of mindset, you will be successful. And I mean, there's just, you're going to fail on the road to success, right? And then when you get to success, you'll fail after that. Mm-hmm. Knowing that it's a part of the process is going to help you get to the next level. And so, there are certain steps, right? There's certain footholds that you're going to take that are going to trip you up. But just knowing that on the other side of that, and the incredible part of the process is that so many of us as human beings, as people, will go along this process, and we get 99% of the way there, and we quit.
Mm-hmm.
And if we would have just went 1% further, we would have seen the fruit of our process, the fruit of our work. But because we gave up and didn't go that 1%, we look at it as a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's hard to begin again. But if you just keep at it, keep going, stay the road. The road is hard, knowing that the road is going to be hard. It's it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love listening to the conversation towards the end, and I love watching the comments about our closing remarks. The loyal listeners are playing the drinking game to a point real quick, right? This is not part of my time here. But Jonathan, Sean, Ray, several others out there listening. Take it a step further on this whole thing. Begin again. I think the begin again thing really, it's don't expect failure because it will come, but be ready to handle it when it does come. I think that this whole thing of the process, I'll take it a step further. And this is all listening to you guys. It's about conditioning. The process is about conditioning to a point that you can you prepare for things that could come, that are unexpected, the failures, those types of things. But you keep doing it. You condition yourself. Not only condition yourself that you're gonna, don't condition yourself necessarily for failure constantly, but you condition yourself so you can prepare for when failure comes, that you can actually handle it. You can get up. You can roll off of that setback. You can have that moment in your life that, all these things that your goals, if all you're doing is expecting the end game or the end all be all goal of being the top person, the top dog, the CEO, the top tennis players we talked about all in this conversation, you want that as you grow up. It's that conditioning that can get you there. So those setbacks are smaller. The hurdles are lower. These are those things that you can actually prepare for and condition, that if you trip over the hurdle, you get up and keep running. You are less susceptible to being injured in that moment. You have an argument with someone, your significant other. It's not the end all be all. I can't be in this relationship anymore because we fought. No, it's condition. Like, you're still doing your day to day. That it was just a bad situation. It was a bad hurdle. It was a bad circumstance. You don't get that promotion that Josh just got, that you got turned down for, that you applied for. Yeah, you can pout, you can kick, you can go to your room and just pout and slam the door and all that stuff. Like, fuck this, I'm out. These people don't appreciate me. This person doesn't appreciate me. You can kick and moan and beat the floor until you fall asleep. Or you wake back up the next day and you're like, all right, what can I do better? What do I expect better? And how do I keep going on my path? And hopefully the people around me, the company I work for, or the person that's in my life, the family that I have, how can I, the path I had 2 days ago before all this came up, that I was conditioning and the process that I was doing every day, how do I get back on track? How do I begin again? Because you're going to get knocked down. You're going to have to struggle through that. You're going to handle rejection, whether it be a sales call, which is a numbers game. Don't treat life like a numbers game. But I will encourage you guys to really endure the day-to-day process and conditioning for successes and how to handle that. Don't gloat. Don't get too excited about the fact that you had a win, because you're going to have to play again tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the big thing, is that you're going to have to play again tomorrow. We talked about some of the best tennis players. We talked about Jordan. We talked about all these things, like the sports and now, like the metaphor with that, the people that you see that are the CEOs that are above you in the company, whatever it might be, people around you that have these successful marriages. They have the big houses and all that stuff. It's like, all right, I'm not going to get there tomorrow, but I'm going to get to where I need to be. If I get to that point with doing what I'm doing, amazing. If I know I'm going to get to a place that I'm happy and the people around me are happy, people I work for or work underneath me, the family, the significant other, the kids, the neighbors, all that stuff. It's a true appreciation for the day-to-day. Every day you have to begin again, because we have that finite time on this earth, and you truly need to capitalize on as many moments and many minutes that you can. If you need to take a moment for yourself to to gather yourself, to recenter and all that stuff, that's fine. You have to take that. That's all about reassessment and there's an analysis on what makes you happy and what's not making you happy. You'll get there. But it is about the conditioning, beating yourself up in a positive way, that you're constantly grinding to that moment of, if it's a success, I know I earned it. If I didn't get that, if I didn't get what I wanted, all right, why? Now I add that to the arsenal of what I've been doing the entire time. And I think that is the conditioning in life, the process that Josh is talking about, all the things that, Nate, you touched on. And I thank, Travis for being on here, all of you listening live and all of you listening after the fact. But I truly appreciate that support. It's continually to drive yourself to where you want to go, but it's day by day and it's step by step. And know that if you aren't putting 100% behind it, then you won't get there. And if you do get there, you're going to fail after that because you didn't prepare yourself for that next step in your life. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Congratulations, Josh Bentley, key account manager for Altadis USA. I will say, unfortunately, we probably won't see Josh quite as much, but I will challenge him to be a part of this podcast once again.
Absolutely.
Maybe with his regional replacement.
Yeah.
That's high voiced it, but I mean.
Yeah. I look forward to it.
All right, guys. Cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Thank you very much. Have a great week. And if you guys have not gotten your ticket to the Tinder Box at Easton Smoking 10 event, we have a few VIP tickets still available and also general admission, but this is one you won't want to miss. I know we have Ray Cheshire coming from Vietnam.
Cool.
To the Smoking 10 event.
Is he?
He is.
All right.
He is. So cheers to you guys.
Yep. Cheers.
Have a great week. We'll see you next week.